Even though he missed 4 games with a broken foot, the Eagles' Vernon Adams Jr. was named Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. Montana sack leader Zach Wagaman will try to slow Adams down as the Grizz drive toward the next round. Montana faces Eastern Washington, round 2 of the FCS Championships, next on ESPN3. Welcome to the NCAA FCS Championship second round game presented by Northwestern Mutual. It's a matchup of Big Sky rivals in the playoffs as Montana takes on Eastern Washington. Let's take a look at the FCS bracket. The winner advances to the quarterfinals to meet the winner of a couple Missouri Valley teams as Northern Iowa is taking on Illinois State. Hi, everybody. I'm Trey Bender alongside the former Notre Dame running back Darius Walker. Glad you're with us. A couple FCS powers here, Big Sky rivals. This game is big for so many reasons. Higher stakes after their first matchup a month ago.
Yeah, you know, one of the common things that you know in football is it's very difficult to beat a team twice. Eastern Washington is going to have to do that against Montana. If you look at the game against Montana a month ago, they got up to a fast start, 33-10 in the first half, so they're going to need to start fast. The problem is Eastern Washington's coming off a bye week. So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out and how they perform early in this game.
Vernon Adams is a 2-time Peyton Award candidate, a special player.
Yeah, Vernon Adams is amazing. He has been illustrious all year. You look at his numbers, over 2,800 yards passing, 30 touchdowns. And the caveat is he missed 4 games with a broken foot. Despite missing those 4 games, he still is the Big Sky Offensive Players of the Year. He's that good.
Now for the Grizz, their quarterback is Jordan Johnson, 3-year starter, getting better every week.
Yeah, he's having a quiet, great season here, over 2,500 yards passing, but the big improvement for him has been over the last few weeks. You look at that game last week against San Diego State, he had 3 touchdowns in the first half. He's playing his best football right now when it matters most. It's going to be exciting to see.
These teams know each other well now. By Northwestern Mutual, Jimmy V Week, and a special matchup here in postseason football. Big Sky rivals Montana and Eastern Washington, and a chance to update the brackets before we kick it off here. At the top of the bracket, the top seed New Hampshire has advanced, and they will take on the number 8 seed Chattanooga after they both post convincing wins in their second round matchups. The Inferno, the red turf, and here come the Grizzlies from Missoula. Great playoff tradition, 9-4 this year. Second in the Big Sky regular season, and Mick Delaney has done a tremendous job bringing this program back to the accustomed level of success. 3rd year, he's been a lifelong coach in the state of Montana, and he wants to go out with a bang this season and knock off a big rival. On the other side, Bo Baldwin, an FCS title in 2010, 4 Big Sky titles. He's coached 6 National Players of the Year. 2 great coaches squaring off here on the big stage.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting to see. You talk about legacies, leaving a legacy and playing well. Both these coaches in Baldwin, you know, they've had tremendous years and stellar careers at their respective universities.
Well, it's a little bit wet here. We expect some rain throughout the course of the afternoon, but not nearly as cold as it's been in Montana the last couple weeks. 39 degrees here in the Pacific Northwest, and some light rain expected here at Roos Field. Series history, lately it has gone the way of the Eagles, though Montana has a rich tradition. It's been the Eagles that have been the story lately. Yeah, when you talk about lately and recently, Eastern Washington has just been putting on a clinic. When you look over the last 5 years, they've had conference championships, 4 out of those last 5. So they've been playing well here recently. Jake Miller will kick it off for Eastern Washington. Montana will get the football first as you look at the deep man, Cody Hecker, standing back there, along with it's actually John Wynn back there with Jamal Jones, and it will be Jones across the 20-yard line for Montana, and the Grizzlies will start things at the 24 after that 20-yard return. We talked about Jordan Johnson in the open, the offensive co-captain, over 8,000 passing yards. He's gotten better in a lot of areas, including improvement audibling at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he's making adjustments and doing them on the fly very quickly. It's all about his experience that's really putting him in that position.
You can see what he's done in his career. Threw for 447 yards and a loss in the first matchup here. They don't want to throw it that much today. They'd like to have some pass-run balance in this matchup in Cheney. Empty backfield, 5 receivers to start things, and they swing it to the left side into the hands of their receiver Trayvon Van for a nice gain. Van will be a running back and a wide receiver. Impact players.
Yeah, you got to look at Mitch Saylor, their tight end. He's number 81. He's a converted wideout at tight end now. He's playing really well on the defensive side. Tevin McDonald's going to have to cover him. Tevin, of course, all Big Sky first team.
Tim McDonald, you probably remember, a great NFL player. A brother also played college football. On second and short, Johnson is pressured, and he's sacked back at the 19-yard line. Dylan Zylstra, the senior. They'll rotate about 8 guys up front. Zylstra, one of them, 9-yard loss.
An impressive job by Zylstra coming in. Watch him come through the middle here. He's number 57 at the tackle position. He comes around and makes the sack. Big time play there on second down.
Third team all Big Sky out of Kent, Washington, and they force him in a 3rd and long here in the early going. Jansen and Jones split right. Pressure coming. Johnson, incomplete. Good coverage, nothing available. Intended for Jansen. They'll have to punt it away.
Yeah, they're going to have to kick this. But, you know, when we talked with Delaney, Coach Delaney this week, one of the things he was worried about was that 3rd and long, putting themselves in 3rd and long early in the game. As you see, it's very hard to convert that. Already a bad start for him on offense.
And Eastern expects to get good field position out of this. Chris Leiter, the junior from Bellevue, Washington. You can see his numbers. He'd love to bang out a 60-yarder right here. And Cooper Kupp, who took one back on a punt return for a touchdown in the first matchup about a month ago, standing on his own 40. Leiter, the left footer, hits one away from Kupp. It bounces across the 40 and out of bounds to the 36. Pretty effective kick, keeping Kupp from returning it 43 yards. And the Eagles will get the football for the first time. Well, Vernon Adams, a special player, could be the Peyton Award winner this year, despite the fact he missed 4 games.
Yeah, you know, after missing those 4 games, the game that he came back against was Montana early in the year. In November, and to get a look at his bio here out of Pasadena, California, he is an amazing quarterback, and he's just a junior, so he's coming back. So he's got to be excited if you're an Eastern Washington Eagle.
They love his ability to keep plays alive. Doesn't necessarily scramble to get yardage rushing, but he'll complete a lot of passes on the move. From the 36-yard line, they start their first series. Adams completes it to Kupp, and Kupp driven out of bounds. His 83rd catch of the season. What a year, only a sophomore.
Yeah, you talk about his 83 catches now. Also that punt return he had a week ago, Cooper Kupp, an amazing wide receiver. Then on the flip side for Montana, you look at Zach Wegeman. He is a sack monster, over 34.5 sacks. In his Montana career, he's really good.
And he's got the long hair to go with. A couple All-Americans there. Here's a handoff to Quincy Forte running to the right side, and he's close to a first down as he's knocked out of bounds across the 46-yard line. Now, this is a concern for Eastern. They don't have Jalen Moore, a knee injury. They've been banged up at the running back spot.
Yeah, they've been banged up a little bit, and Quincy Forte has been the guy who has been he's done well when he's gotten a chance to play. He's been out. He hasn't been 100% healthy thus far. They think that they're finally getting him back a little bit in this game. But the big number to look at for him is that 6.9-yard average. To me, that's impressive. Anytime a running back's over 4, they're doing really well.
They're really good on third downs. You saw the numbers, almost 50%. Montana has been tough on third down D, though. This is the 3rd and 1. It's Adams on the keeper, has a first down. He slides across midfield to the Grizzlies' 49-yard line.
Starting off to a good start again. You know, we talked a little bit about, Vernon Adams and his ability to be able to extend plays. This time it's a called run. He runs the zone read, comes around the corner just enough for the first down. But you got to try to stop the bleeding here if you're Montana. We mentioned how Eastern Washington was able to start fast when they played them earlier on in the year. You got to stop the bleeding here.
And they will show so many different formations. They go empty backfield here. 5 receivers, 3 to one side from the Montana 49. Adams stepping up in the pocket, delivers it downfield for Mitchell. He can't get there at the 15-yard line. Had a good look at it.
Oh, that's going to be one that Vernon Adams going to wish he had back. You see him step back, look a little safety off, and then throw the deep ball just a little bit too much under it for Mitchell to be able to go get it. That's going to be one that he wish he would have back. So close. He's wide open, too. Wide open. Hate those, man. You got to hate those.
Adams will not miss on many. He completes 67% of his passes. Now a 2nd and 10. This time they go pistol formation with a running back behind Adams. And they'll hand it off. And running with it is Forte, and he's close to a first down inside the 40-yard line. Battling an ankle injury, looks pretty good. Tackle made there by Jeremy Kosay.
Yeah, I like Baldwin in the call here to run that out of that pistol formation. It gives you a little bit of space when you spread guys out and then put that running back behind the quarterback.
And he will check off now with a 3rd and 1 situation. And they bring in Mario Brown at running back. It's actually Wilson off tackle, Jabari Wilson, and that's good enough for a first down to the 35. They use Forte, Brown, and Wilson at the running back spot. Nice problem to have with all those guys.
Yeah, they got some studs, so to speak, in the backfield. Of course, Jabari Wilson's got 4 touchdowns on the season, so he'll touch the ball a lot. As good as Forte and Brown are, they're going to use all 3 of these guys.
Great opening march for the Eagles now at the Montana 35. Just underway here in Cheney, Washington. Winner moves to the FCS quarterfinal round. Adams looking to throw it. Pressure coming. He escapes it, but not the second man. And there's a sack for Derek Crittenden, the junior end, a 4-yard loss.
This is amazing. This is started by number 91, Tyrone Holmes. Look at 91. He's coming off the edge. He's actually going to get there first and misses, which allows Derek Crittenden to get in and to make the sack on Adams. You know, one of the things that's great about Eastern Washington and specifically about Montana on defense is they can rush 4 and get to the quarterback.
They'd like to be more base-oriented, like you said, not have to gamble so much. He has had a good season at that end behind Wagaman on the left side. 2nd down, 15 now. Play fake. Adams zips it into the slot, and the catch is made by Cup. Tough catch. 5-yard pickup. Back to the original line of scrimmage.
Yeah, of course, Cooper Kupp. Talk about the season that he's had, over 1,100 yards receiving this year, 14 touchdowns. You know, last year when he was a freshman, he won the Jerry Rice Award for the top freshman wide receiver in the conference. So they knew he was going to be good. I think he got there a little bit faster than they expected.
Ty Gregoric, the guy that said he lost sleep trying to prepare for this Eagles offense, trying to deliver here on 3rd down and 10 from the 35. Again, an empty backfield. Adams scrambles, in trouble, and they've got him back at the 37-yard line. How about the pass rush? Holmes started on it, and he got some help, and Wagaman gets credit for the sack.
There you go. I mean, once again, we just talked about it a second ago about Ty Gregoric and his ability to be able to get to the quarterback with 4 players. When you combine that with your ability to be able to do any type of coverage you want, because you can get pressure with 4, you get a coverage sack right there, and that's exactly what that was for Zach Wagaman.
Look at those numbers. 3-time first-team all-conference, Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, and a guy that may be the best end in the country. And that is a win for this defense. Maybe a statement made here in the early going from the Grizzlies. Miller to punt it from midfield, end over end. Wynn calling for the fair catch. He'll let that go into the end zone, and they'll bring it out to the 20-yard line. Nothing on the board here in the early going. Each team with an offensive possession. We expect some fireworks between these Big Sky rivals. Scoreless in Cheney. Back to Cheney, Montana and Eastern Washington meeting for the 2nd time this season. We're scoreless in the early going. Let's take a look at how the Montana Grizzlies and Eastern Washington Eagles plan for success. Brought to you by Northwestern Mutual.
Yeah, you know, for Montana, they really want to have a balanced offense. They need to be able to have a balanced offense and not be one-dimensional. Then on the other side for Eastern Washington, you know, they really got to force them to be one-dimensional on offense, because they did that a month ago and they were able to have a lot of success early in that game.
They'd like to get Jordan Canada started, get him off to a good start at the running back spot, over 1,000 yards rushing. He's standing to the left of Jordan Johnson here as they start from the 20. Pass complete to Sean Haynes, and he's run out of bounds after a 6-yard pickup at the 26-yard line. Bothered by a back injury, did not play last week.
Yeah, you know, he's a big wide receiver, but if you look at the split that the corners have, they're giving him about 10 yards right now. So you're going to look for Montana to throw those look passes until those corners come up and start pressing some.
They had a big win over San Diego, 52-14, a chance to rest a lot of players. Everybody got involved as you look at the passing numbers for Montana this year. And here's Canada to the outside, turns it upfield. A flag comes in late as he's knocked down at the 28-yard line. Matt Young, our lead referee here out of the Ohio Valley Conference. Generally, that's where they're going to back him up.
Holding number 6, offense. 10-yard penalty. Second out.
Jamal Jones, a wide receiver.
Yeah, look at the top right corner here. Watch Jamal Jones there. Just going to pull the guy down around the back there. They're going to call that every time. Good call by the refs.
So instead of a 3rd and short situation, 3rd and a couple, now it's 2nd and 14 as they back him up to the 16-yard line.
You don't need the 16 yards. You just need to try to get about 8. Try to get half of that back if you can to put yourself in a manageable 3rd down.
Bunch formation, not spread out on this snap. Johnson's going to scramble with it, puts his head down, and he gets some yardage back up to the 22. He's effective with his feet. Doesn't run a lot, but good right there.
Yeah, good decision making right there. Didn't have an open wide receiver, so decided to just keep it and run. And that's what they need Johnson to do. They need him to keep them in positive situations. If no one's open, don't force it.
Montana will go with 2 receivers on the left side. Every now and then they'll go up tempo, trying to keep them off pace a little bit. They can be no huddle here. They're taking their time, looking at a 3rd and 7. Blitz is coming. Johnson over the middle, incomplete, intended for Jones. The Eagles were sending a linebacker there, and that may have rushed him a little bit.
Yeah, caused him to throw the ball a little bit sooner than he wanted to because he saw that rush. But a good job for Eastern Washington bringing the pressure there. You know, once again, we talked about the last game against Montana and Montana playing Eastern Washington. And that first half, what happened was they forced them to be one-dimensional. And it seems like already right now they're doing the same thing. They're duplicating that.
This is a Montana team that averages 30 points, but Eastern averages 44.6. Tops in FCS. And they force another punt here from Chris Leiter. Cup standing back at his 38. Leiter, pressure coming, it's blocked! It is blocked, it's loose inside the 2, recovered by Montana, but Eastern Washington will have it. Thanks to a huge block on special teams. Stepping up and delivering is Ronnie Hamlin.
Hamlin's going to come off the edge. An amazing play. You know, when you look at playoff games like this, it's always going to come down to 1 or 2 plays that make a difference, and they have it on special teams. Watch Hamlin come right through the middle of your screen there and block. That's just a breakdown in protection for Montana. Special teams put one on the board right now for Eastern Washington.
Bo Baldwin mentioned special teams. He said one big play could turn the tables. That could be it right there. Hamlin, the school's all-time leading tackler, first team All-Big Sky, and huge on special teams here in the early going. High formation. Eagles trying to cash in off the turnover. Wilson, the running back, straight ahead, and he's met in the hole for nothing. They stand him up at the point of attack. Holmes was in there.
As you see Hamlin with his numbers, you talk about having a big season, the senior out of Lacey, Washington, and that's big. You know, when you have your starters on special teams, sometimes that's the difference, is putting that starter guy out there.
Yeah, that's a Buchanan Award candidate, tenacious they call him, and Bo Baldwin getting a big boost from Hamlin on special teams. 2nd and goal now. Again, Wilson, the running back. Rolling on the play fake. Adams has a man. It's caught for the touchdown. Hauled in by Terrence Grady. His first touchdown catch this season. And the Eagles strike first.
All, of course, started by Hamlin and his block of the punt. But you're just going to see Adams roll out here. And he's going to come right across the middle. 89, Terry Jackson, the second.
Terry Jackson, their 4th tight end with the catch, and it's 6-0. They cash in off the turnover. Tyler McNanny, the junior, for the extra point. And it's 7-0 Eagles. Big play sets them up.
Big play, got to set them up. But you talk about special teams, this is where it starts. You have your starter. Ronnie Hamlin comes in with the block. puts him in perfect position to get him on the board, and then Adams rolls out. It's his backup tight end, Terry Jackson. They're up 7-0 midway through the first quarter.
7-0 Eagles thanks to a Ronnie Hamlin block punt and a touchdown catch by Terry Jackson. Coming off of injury, his 10th catch, second touchdown catch of the year. They use multiple formations, and their tight end is very important in their offense.
Yeah, they're able to do 2 tight ends when Terry Jackson is healthy, so they're excited to have him out there because that gives them ability to be able to do a 2 tight end set and throw to either guy.
Jamal Jones standing back deep, awaiting the kick from Jake Miller, and Jones is going to take a knee 3 yards deep in the end zone. Well, the first meeting between these two about a month ago here on the red turf in Cheney, and the Eagles got off to a great start.
Yeah, they did. They went up 33-10 in the first half, which forced Montana to have to be one-dimensional and battle back. And of course, we had to mention that Vernon Adams, this was his first game back from injury, so he was not 100% healthy, and he threw for 399 yards and 4 touchdowns. So he had a really good game.
Adams broken right foot, and despite that, 30 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this season. Let's see how the Grizz respond now as they'll start from the 25-yard line. Johnson pressured and sacked back at the 17. They rotate a lot of guys up front, and that time Andre Leno, the redshirt freshman, was there.
Yeah, Leno's just going to beat the tackle right in the, just rolled over the guy to get to the quarterback there. That's just mano-a-mano, one-on-one, winning that individual battle, which is what all coaches talk about.
Second sack of the season, the redshirt freshman from Seattle, Washington. Makes it 2nd and 18. They sling it to the sideline, caught by Jamal Jones, makes one-man miss, and Jones with a nice catch and run out to the 21-yard line. Jones is a guy that can break plays open with his ability on the outside.
Yeah, he has some ability after he catches the ball. You know, you look at his average per game is at 79 yards per game because he can do that. He can make guys miss. But what you have to look at if you're Montana here is them being conservative. Can't be conservative because you put yourself in that 3rd and long, which is what they don't want to be in.
3rd and 14 to be exact from the 21. Johnson looking for the play call. They have struggled in the early going on 3rd down, and this would be a tough one to pick up. Eagles rushing 4. Johnson pressured, scrambling to his left now, gets a big block. Now he sets and fires into coverage. It's caught for the first down at the 42-yard line. Coming back to the football was Trayvon Van to move the sticks.
Now you got to keep in mind here for Trayvon Van, this is an impressive play, but this all started with Jordan Johnson being able to extend the play. He's going to look around here, no one's open, and then he's going to just flip back to his other side and find Trayvon Van coming back, and then delivers a strike. Impressive throw, but for Trayvon Van, you got to remember this guy's he's a backup running back out at wide receiver.
24-yard pickup, now rolling and throwing is Johnson. Catch made by Haynes, and he's out of bounds at the Eagles' 48-yard line. This is a team that doesn't have a lot of big play weapons at receiver, but Johnson's ability to stay mobile gives them some options.
Yeah, you know, and then when you add, you know, a guy like Trayvon Van, who's a running back who actually has stellar hands out of the backfield, he has a little bit of complexity there because he can line him up in running back, motion him out to wide receiver, so to speak.
Jordan Canada, the 5th-year senior, next to Johnson in the backfield on a 2nd and 3. Handoff, Canada trying to work behind his blockers. Now he puts his head down. He's going to be about a yard shy of the first down as he takes it inside the 47 on the play.
This is going back to that offensive key for Montana. They really want to try to stay balanced. Now, they haven't been able to get much room running the ball with Jordan Canada today thus far, but they still have to do it to create a tendency so that Eastern Washington doesn't just peer their ears back and just blitz.
You see the numbers for Canada. Zach Bruce, the nickel, back on that last tackle, but it's 3rd and a couple now for Montana. Wilson in at the fullback spot. They send Saylor, the tight end, in motion. Toss pitch, Canada, first down and more. And he's to the Eagles' 40-yard line. That is just blue-collar football there. 7-yard pickup. They'd like to do that more.
Yeah, you know, as a former running back, I love to see it, but this all starts with the fullback, Jamal Wilson. They bring him in. He's going to come around and make a big block, shot block, Just bring Jordan Canada for the first down. Impressive play for Montana. Smash mouth football. I like to see it.
This is a team that would love to run it first. They average 170. You see the numbers there as we hit the 4-minute mark here, first quarter. Again, the two running back look from the gun. Johnson, handoff, Canada, straight ahead. Carrying Cody McCarthy, the middle linebacker, for a few yards. And they'll mark him down at the 38.
Once again, trying to stay balanced for Montana on offense, trying to stay balanced by using that dose of Jordan Canada. But what you can do now after running a couple of plays and having some success, play action. It's coming.
Setting him up, 2nd and 8 now. This time, no fullback, 3 receivers, and a tight end. Johnson to the left side. Catch is made short of the first down, hauled in by Haynes. He's tackled immediately, and it'll be a 3rd down and manageable, about 4 yards to go.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they wanted to try to do, was to get a few more yards out of that play, but it's all because Eastern Washington still, their corners are 10 yards off a lot of times, so they're throwing these look passes. They're going to continue to throw them till you stop them.
And they will pick up the tempo here. That was Jake Hoffman on the tackle. 3rd and 4 from the 34. Pistol formation this time. Johnson through the hands of his intended receiver, Van. That would have been a first down catch, and he couldn't hang on.
Trayvon Van, remember the backup running back, split him out at wide out all the way on the wide side of the field, and he's just got to catch that. That's through the hands. Man, I know it's a little wet and rainy out there, but ball hits you in the hands, you got to catch it no matter what the weather conditions are.
Coach Delaney now will go for it, it appears. 4th and 4, 10th play of this drive. Trying to keep it going as Eastern checks in some new defenders. They've been good on 4th down this season. Pressure coming. Over the middle. Catch made for a first down. A low throw, and it was delivered to Ryan Burke. First down inside the 30.
Burke's just going to come right across the middle here and get to the sticks. One of the things they teach you as a wide receiver, that when it's 4th and short or 3rd and short, run that route to the sticks. It's a curl route, run it right past the sticks, so when you catch it, it's first down, no questions asked. Good job by Burke.
27-yard line now, first down. This time 2 receivers to the right, actually 3, as they have Burke lined up in a slot. Play fake. And there's a pass by Burke. He wants Jones, and he can't hang on. And a flag is thrown in the end zone. There's also a flag where Burke threw the football, and I think this could be 2 forward passes. We'll have to sort it out.
Yeah, we'll have to try to see what happens here. But Burke tries to run a bubble route, but he's got to stay behind the line of scrimmage when he catches it so that he still has the ability to be able to throw it. But we'll let the referees sort this out here. You know, that's one of those, when Burke threw it, it was in triple coverage. So, if you're really looking at it from that standpoint, you don't want him to make that pass. But if it's a pass interference call, it could work out in their favor.
There was no foul here because the first pass was backward. But there is pass interference. Defense, number 21. 15-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Rashad will do the corner, the guilty party. Let's take a look at this.
Yeah, so they're going to throw this to Burke. It's behind the line of scrimmage, so it's legal for him to throw the ball. But when he launches this up, Wadu's going to come over and make contact right before the ball gets there. Pretty good call. It's close, but pretty good call.
So they'll mark off the 15 yards. A big play from Montana. And it's a 1st and 10 now, outside the 12.
Montana picking up a little bit of momentum with that play. You don't want to have to depend on a pass interference to get momentum, but they'll take it any way they can get it right now.
The Grizz, like Eastern, very good in the red zone this season. Here comes a penalty flag before the snap.
False start, 81, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
It's Mitch Saylor, the tight end.
Yeah, he's our impact player, having a negative impact on that play. Sometimes it gets kind of loud, and after a big play, there's momentum, the crowd's cheering, but you still got to hone in. But you look at the numbers here for Mitch Saylor, 33 catches. He's having a really good year, and he's sort of developing into his own after being converted from the wide receiver position.
6'5", 235, good size now. 1st and 15, rolling right. Johnson, they set up the screen back the other way. Caught by Jones, or by Van, I should say, and they corral him at the 20. That ended up being a loss. It looked like it could develop into a big play. Dylan Zylstra shut it down. 3-yard pickup.
That's an excellent job on defense by Eastern Washington. But once again, you see Montana trying to figure out how to get Van involved. He's a backup runner that they will put at a wide receiver position, so they'll do all sorts of creative stuff to try to get him with the ball in his hand.
Look at Zylstra's season at that defensive tackle position. Third-team all-conference, fiery player on the defensive line. Officially, they'll mark that as a 1-yard loss, so 2nd and 16 now, just outside the 20. And now Jordan Johnson wants a timeout.
Timeout, Montana. First charge, timeout, full media.
Bo Baldwin's team trying to stand tall in the red zone. They lead it 7-0 on the home turf. Welcome back to the NCAA FCS Championship second round game presented by Northwestern Mutual. 7-0 Eagles lead it. And some updates in the FCS playoff second round. Look at halftime in Fargo, the Bison in a battle.
Oh, they are in a cutthroat battle.
And some finals are in. Coastal, New Hampshire getting wins, advancing to quarterfinal play. We've got a good one here. 2nd and long for Johnson and the Grizz. He's going to scramble. He's got room to run. Inside the 15, puts his head down, and he's down to the 12-yard line, a 9-yard pickup. Let's take a look at the bracket as it stands right now in the FCS Championship. Coastal Carolina with Joe Moglia doing a tremendous job again this year advancing. They'll take on the winner of South Dakota State, North Dakota State, locked up in a good one.
It's a little surprising there with Richmond going down the way they did.
You saw Richmond really impressive last week.
Impressive wide receiver, Reggie Diggs, Michael Strauss, their quarterback. Pretty good.
Never know when a playoff football arrives what's going to happen. Here comes some pressure on 3rd and long. Johnson again scrambling, and Eastern played that really well. They'll stop him short of the first down at the 10-yard line. Tackle made by Zachary Johnson, the senior defensive end.
Now here's what the question for Montana here. You know, we talked about this a little bit earlier about how starting fast in this game. And what that means is they need to be scoring touchdown for touchdown. They can't trade field goals for touchdowns when you're going against Vernon Adams and this Eastern Washington offense. So this is a bit of a letdown for Montana on offense, but they'll take the points anyway.
Out of the hold of Matt Hermanson, this will be a 29-yarder for Daniel Sullivan, 9 of 12 on the season. Junior from Mill Creek, Washington. Kick on the way. And it's good. So they get points. A very effective drive for the Grizz.
And you got to remember how this all started and how they even got down there was on that pass interference call on the double pass from Burke. So one of those interesting things that you talk about.
And that was the final play of the first quarter. As anticipated, a good one between Big Sky rivals. 7-3, Eastern Washington in front. Second quarter coming up. NCAA FCS Championship second round game presented by Northwestern Mutual. 1 quarter in the books. 7-3 Eastern Washington. A 13-play drive for the Grizz. A pass interference penalty really helped him out.
Yeah, this is what really helped him. It's going to be a double pass to Burke. And he throws this up. Now the question is does Rashad Wadu, number 21, get there before the ball does? That's who they call the pass interference on, was number 21. He's running behind in that. Did he get there first? But nonetheless, an impressive drive for Montana. Took up a lot of time. They only came away with 3, but it still was productive.
And they kept that Eastern Washington offense off the field. The Eagles will now get a chance to get some mojo back as Leiter will kick it away. And this will be returned by Shaq Hill across the 25. Hill with that sprinter speed, and he's finally run out of bounds at the 37. Dangerous return man, and now second all-time in kick return yardage at Eastern Washington.
Yeah, Shaq Hill, he's a speedster. He's their athlete, probably their 3rd best wide receiver, but he's just very, very fast. One of the fastest guys on this team. He's been injured. They're excited to have him back, and you see why.
32-yard return. 3rd-team All-Big Sky pick as Vernon Adams leads the Eagles back out onto the field.
Vernon Adams having a little bit of a quiet first quarter, so to speak, 3 of 4, 13 yards, but he does have the 1 touchdown pass off of that blocked punt on special teams.
He's going to throw it to the slot, caught by Cooper Kupp, and he takes it up to the 44-yard line. You're not going to keep Kupp quiet. 6-yard pickup there. This is a guy that is First team All-Big Sky, All-American, academic All-American.
Smart guy, too. He does it on the field and off the field, which coaches love to see. But the caveat is this guy, he's just a sophomore. He's growing into his own, growing into a good player.
6-yard catch, 2nd and 4 now facing Eastern as they go with the pistol formation here with Adams. Play fake. Adams rolling and throwing, and there's a catch made for a first down. It's Cup again across midfield. FCS bracket update as we keep you up to speed on the championship. New Hampshire and Chattanooga have advanced, as has Illinois State. The Redbirds await the winner of this one.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game, an interesting matchup. Love to see New Hampshire. Man, they got a good football team up there.
Jabari Wilson now on the carry, straight ahead, and some pushing and shoving after the play as he picks up 9 yards down to the 40-yard line. This is a team that can play some smash-mouth football. They can run it between the tackles.
They most certainly can. We talked about the 3 different runners in Wilson, Brown, and Forte. They mix these guys in, keep all of them fresh, and they hand the ball off. They can be smash-mouth when they want to.
7 yards deep in the backfield. This time they're going to throw it, and oh my goodness, what a big hit delivered right there by Nate Harris. He put it on Corey Mitchell.
This is all on Vernon Adams. This is on him. He throws the ball late and upfield, which allows Nate Harris to come in and attack the ball and wide receiver. So that's one of those where you're going to go off on the sidelines, and Vernon Adams is going to get an earful from his wide receiver there.
The field corner out of Chino, California, got his money's worth there. It was good enough for a first down. It's a tough way to move the sticks right there.
Tough one. You're asking your wide receiver to do a lot to take a shot like that for 1 yard. But first down nonetheless. Well, they're going to check it.
Well, they're going to
measure it.
Just to make sure. It appears he has it. They'll stretch the sticks out.
Forward progress.
And it will be a first down. This is an Eastern Washington team that has been very good on third down, 49% conversion. And they really keep you guessing. I mean, you saw how they run it, and then they're able to swing it out there and get the athletes on the edge.
Yeah, you know, they do. They will mix up formations, and when you have a quarterback that can deliver the ball anywhere and has such a command of the offense like Vernon Adams does, it really opens up your playbook for really anything you want to try to do.
This time empty backfield, a 5-receiver look, no running backs from the 39. Adams, backside pressure, fires it downfield, and Harris is there, and he almost picks it off. It was intended for Cup, but that was hung up there down near the 10-yard line.
Yeah, this is going to be a matchup to watch here. Nate Harris versus Cooper Kupp on the edge. Adams is just going to throw this up. Kupp streaking down the sideline, but Harris is going to get his hand on the ball and knock it down. That's an excellent job by your cornerback. We talked about Nate Harris having a good game so far, came up with the big hit, sending a message and then batting the ball down on a good wide receiver.
Eastern Washington, second in the FCS in passing yardage this season, facing a 2nd and 10 now. Forte back in at running back. He gets the handoff, hit in the hole, and then hit on the backside and dropped near the line of scrimmage. Wagaman finally finished him off, but credit the big guys up front, the tackles, at shutting things down. This is quite an offense, Darius.
Yeah, you know, when you talk about being first in scoring in the conference at over 44 points per game, I mean, we've seen 6 times this year they've scored over 50. So it is a prolific and powerful offense that puts up points. So the fact that they only have 7 right now is a huge win for Montana, even though it's only the 2nd quarter.
3rd and 9. This time they split Forte out top of the screen as a wide receiver. Again, the 5-receiver look. Adams scrambling left, Wagaman giving chase. Now he'll reverse field, and after him is Holmes. He escapes him. Now Adams still trying to keep the play alive, but Wagaman is there, and he got him at the 46, his 2nd sack of the game.
This is going to be a battle for the ages. You talk about the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, Zach Wagaman, and the Offensive Player of the Year, and Vernon Adams Jr. Now Adams is not, this is almost a comfort sack for Montana because no one is open. So they're doing a scramble drill now where guys are just running into open space. But Adams is unable to find him before Zach Wagaman comes in and just makes the play. These two are going to be battling it out all day.
The Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year against the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. Defense wins there. Miller's punt towards Wynn goes over his head and into the end zone for the touchback. Great offense against great defense. 2 of the top teams in FCS football squaring off in a good one in Cheney. Welcome back to the Inferno in Cheney, Washington. A 7-3 lead for the Eagles. The winner gets a trip to the FCS quarterfinals. Help Us Beat Cancer. The V Foundation awards 100% of direct donations and net proceeds of events to fund cancer research. Log on to www.jimmyv.org or call 1-800-4JIMMY-V to donate. And a great cause, and it's getting bigger and bigger every year, and it's great to see all the attention headed that way.
Yeah, the V Foundation, talk about an amazing foundation. They've given millions upon millions of dollars towards cancer research.
You've got an excellent football game here. Early stages, second quarter. Montana with the football after the punt. They'll hand it off to Jordan Canada. He fumbles the football. It pops into the air, and it's loose to the 28, and Eastern Washington has it. He was hit at the 25. It popped into the air, and the Eagles jump on it.
This might be our first turnover of the game. Now they want to stay balanced with Jordan Cannon running the football, but instead of just kind of going out of bounds, he's going to try to take on a defender, and the ball pops in the air. Looks like they may have gotten this thing before it goes out of bounds. As we take another look at this, you know, you talk about big games, specifically playoff games. For Montana, two things have happened. One, they've had a punt blocked, which resulted in 7 points. Now, turning the ball over in their own territory, that's two huge mistakes that'll get you beat in the playoff game.
You saw 27 there. Victor Gamboa put his hat on the ball to knock it free, and it looked like Cody McCarthy, the senior middle linebacker, pounced on it. Big plays. That's the reason for the lead, and now the Eagles try to cash in again.
Sure, it comes down to one or two plays. You talk about these games and these tight matchups, 7-3 right now in the second quarter. Tight matchups come down to one or two plays, and we've seen two costly ones from Montana.
No call to the booth for a review here, but it appeared that
it's really not a field. It's a fumble. Previous play. It's under further review.
Well, it's definitely a fumble, I would assume. The question is does Eastern Washington get on it, or is one of the players out of bounds and touching the football? Not much of a good angle there, but you got to credit Gamboa coming up and making a big hit on the ball to even put him in position here. I don't know that there's indisputable evidence to say that it wasn't recovered by Eastern Washington inbounds.
Well, one of the officials right on top of that, standing right by the sideline. They ruled it a Eagles fumble recovery, and the question is, was it recovered with the feet out of bounds?
Right.
The ball was on the field.
Ball was on the field. The question is does the defender have his feet out of bounds? What a big play. I mean, listen, you know, you talk about the tables turning with momentum. Montana took a little of it back with that long drive after that pass interference call, and they kicked the field goal, so they grabbed a little of that momentum. But now this would be a huge shift towards Eastern Washington with a turnover in the territory.
And this would be really stunning for Coach Delaney and his club, because they've only lost 3 fumbles all year. That's number 1 in FCS this year. This would be number 4.
Yeah, we'll take another look at this thing. Gamboa gets his head on the ball. It pops up in bounds. Are the feet out of bounds?
McCarthy's
touching it. Yeah, it's his foot out of bounds as he touches the football. Oh, man. This is a tough one to sort out.
He cradled it with his feet in bounds, but then did it the continuation move him out of bounds? And do they have enough video evidence to overturn the original call? That's the
question.
key here.
Yeah, that's the big question. As the refs continue to check to see if he was in bounds. Now, once again, the ruling on the field is a fumble recovery for Eastern Washington, so there has to be indisputable evidence that he was, in fact, out of bounds and touching the football, which is kind of hard to see from that angle. But, I mean, hey, we up here in the booth, we've been wrong 1,000 times, you know, so.
They're right on top of
it.
The Ohio Valley Conference officials here in Cheney, Washington. How about Victor Gamboa, the redshirt freshman from Tacoma, with a big hit on the ball, though?
You know, the coaches have praised Victor and how he has stepped up. You know, you talk about him being a redshirt freshman, a young player. They see a lot of promise in him, and that's one of the reasons why is he has a knack for being in the right place at the right time and is a physical corner.
We understand the ruling is going to go Montana's way here. Marcus Sagan, the freshman end, apparently, who was near McCarthy, the was ruled out of bounds. That's a preliminary call here, and they're going to make it official.
Wow. Once again, it has to be indisputable evidence, but the refs, I guess, at this point do believe that Saugun was out of bounds and touching the football. It was so close. That'll make it 2nd and 4 at the 26-yard line. This is a big win for Montana, if in fact it doesn't stick, as the refs are still trying to sort this out.
That's the preliminary word we're getting, and you wonder why it's not just being said right now.
Sure, it looks like it might be a difference of opinion with a few different referees. They're trying to come to an agreement to see exactly what they're going to go with. Either way, you're going to have to explain to both coaches why or why not it didn't go their way.
That's a huge call. I know it's early second quarter, but this could really the key for Montana was to get off to a good start. Now, if they're down 14-3, that changes things.
That changes things. Even down, 10-3 changes things in terms of momentum in the game. We'll get the call here now.
Matt Young.
After review, number 93 was touching the ball with his shoulders out of bounds. Therefore, that is a fumble forward, out of bounds. Ball returned to the 26-yard line, where it will be 2nd down and 4 yards to go.
Now we'll take another look at this. If you look at Marcus Saugun, number 93. Now Gamboa puts the hit on Canada that pops the ball up, but watch 93 slide out of bounds. Right there, you see 93, he's out of bounds. Now what the refs are saying is his feet are actually touching the ball. As we take another look at this angle, Saugun sliding out of bounds. He's out of bounds now, and his foot touches the football right there.
So he's connected to McCarthy in that sense. Therefore, McCarthy's out of bounds, and the ball's out of bounds.
There it is.
So
that's the call.
That's a big break for Montana.
Oh, that's a huge break for Montana there. One of those things where, we're going to be talking about this play for quite some time in this game because it does boil down to 1 or 2 plays. Fortunately for Montana, it's not a turnover, and they get the ball back.
2nd and 4 at the 26-yard line after that Canada run. They'll go 3 backs in the backfield with the quarterback, and they're going to run some option. The zone read, keeper by Johnson, and they've done a little bit more of this as the season has gone on. That's a 1st down.
Yeah, they feel a little bit more comfortable with Johnson running the football and making these reads as the season has progressed. We mentioned his numbers the last few weeks. He's been very, very good recently. So they're going to open that playbook up a little bit. When your quarterback's playing well, you can do that.
28-10 in his career as a starter. The senior from Eugene, Oregon, the former Oregon 6A Player of the Year, Johnson. They'll run it this time with Canada off the right side, and he breaks a tackle and moves it across the 25-yard line. If they can get him running downhill and get some momentum, that could change the course of this game.
That's exactly what Montana wants to do. They want to stay balanced on offense, and they need to do a heavy dose of Jordan Canada. And you see that play there, sort of an off-tackle misdirection. So they're switching things up. They're trying to be a little creative. They're running options. They're running the football, really trying to keep this defense honest.
Now it's a trips to the left formation for Montana, 2nd and 5. Johnson's going to run it, though. Design play, and that's a 1st down up to the 43-yard line. Have they seen something here, or is this just trying to keep Eastern Washington off kilter a bit?
It might be a little bit of a mix of both here, Jordan Johnson is not known as a running quarterback. So when you have called runs, it catches the defense off balance because watch them on film. You look at what they've done. You look at the last game that they played against Montana. Jordan Johnson wasn't running the football. So you have a called run like that, it keeps the defense off balance, and they like what Johnson's doing with the football in his hands.
They've run it the last 6 times. Now looking to throw is Johnson, rolling left, giving chase. A couple Eagles, and it's incomplete. That time, Zachary Johnson was coming after the quarterback along with J.T. Tioli, the freshman.
Yeah, and the thing to notice there is Jordan Johnson got up just a little bit gimpy there, so I have to keep monitoring that as you look at his numbers. 55 yards, 8 of 10. Hasn't scored any touchdowns yet, but they did have a long drive that was methodical in the 1st quarter.
It was a 13-play drive that resulted in their field goal. Now they go 2 receivers to each side. Another different look from the Grizz. Jones on the screen, and he's across the 45. And tackled by Albert Havili. It'll be 3rd down and long coming up.
Once again, Montana is really liking the fact that these corners are playing so far off. They're going to continue to throw those look passes and quick screens to wide receivers because the corners are playing 10 yards off.
3rd and 7. Just across the 46. Johnson rolling right. Backside pressure. Fires downfield. It's incomplete. He went for the deep ball that time, intended for Josh Jansen. It's 4th down.
You got to credit Eastern Washington for making that adjustment. 3rd down and 7. They pressure every single, they press coverage every single wide receiver there, which means no one's open. And now as you see the deep ball here, just a little bit too far out of the reach there. But that all started because Eastern Washington went to press coverage on the outside to stop those look pass and quick plays.
Coach Delaney does get a little bit of field position, though, after that turnover ruled not a turnover, as Leiter will punt it from his 35. A booming kick, a spiraling kick over the head of Cup and into the end zone for the touchback. 7-3. Defenses ruling the roost so far. 53-yard punt. Eagles get the football back. 9:25 to go, first half. A rematch between Big Sky rivals here, postseason style in Cheney, Washington. A 7-3 Eagles lead over the Grizz. Bo Levi Mitchell, Peyton Award winner, CFL Grey Cup MVP, one of the greats to come through this program.
You talk about a stellar QB. He led the team to national title there in 2010 when the Eagles won it. He's a dominant player.
Vernon Adams hoping this is his year, that he's crowned the Peyton Award winner and wins a national title for the Eagles. On 1st down, he rolls out, and that's knocked down at the line of scrimmage. And that was Derek Crittenden again. He's made a couple big plays here from his end position.
Yeah, he's coming right around the corner here. This is what they teach you on the defensive line. If you can't get to the quarterback, jump up and throw your hands up. And Derek Crittenden, again, he's a 6'3", 240-pound defensive end, and you got a 6-foot Vernon Adams trying to throw the ball. He should be able to bat that down every time.
He's got the smarts to go with the talent. Chemistry major. 4.0 GPA from Whitefish, Montana. 2nd and 10. Handoff, Forte trying to get to the outside, and not much real estate. Gets 4. Tough sledding, though. Herbert Gamboa, the Sam linebacker, was there. The Eagles a great playoff history, not where Montana's is, but
sure.
Recent times, yes.
Yeah, they've been good. As you see, we talked a little about that national title with Bo Levi Mitchell that they won back in 2010. And then 3 semifinal appearances in the last 4 seasons. They just have been good over the last 5 years.
Coach Baldwin saying those semifinal trips, those teams may have been good as the team that won it all in 2010. You got to have a little bit of luck. Some things go your way to win the whole thing. Adams to the far sideline, and a 1st down catch hauled in by Kendrick Bourne, the sophomore from Portland, up to the 34.
It's nice to see Bourne on the stat sheet here. He's our 2nd leading wide receiver coming into this game, had 746 yards and 10 touchdowns on the year. But he's the 2nd guy they look to after Cup.
Breakout sophomore year, just 7 catches a year ago. Now they'll run it to the left side as they pick up the tempo with Forte, and he's close to a 1st down at the 43-yard line. You can see the speed now on offense. Yeah,
they're trying to up-tempo this a little bit to keep their guys from thinking a whole lot. When you run that quicker offense, guys just have to react, which is what Coach wants to see.
2nd down and a yard now. Again, the handoff to Forte on a stretch play, tries to turn it upfield and has a 1st down to the 36-yard line. Gamboa again on the tackle. That was a slow developing play, but it was effective.
Ends up getting the 1st down, which is really what they wanted there. But that's just Forte making a play and turning the ball up. Get the 1st down there. But Eastern Washington, once again, trying to put together a nice methodical drive as they did a couple of series ago. Try to put themselves in good position to put some more points on the board.
What a job Bo Baldwin has done. FCS Coach of the Year in that 2010 season. Big Sky champs the last 3 seasons. Play fake now. And Adams stumbles and he goes down at the 39. The pocket was collapsing and Jeremy Kosei was giving chase.
Yeah, the pocket's just going to close up on Adams here. He kind of loses his footing. See him take the snap here. They blitz him. Montana blitzes him up the middle, so he's going to step up and around and just kind of trips on the turf there. Credit Montana defense, though, for bringing that pressure. And of course, look at Kose.
How about that hair?
Yeah, that hair and those numbers. 106 total tackles on the year.
You never grew your hair out like that at Notre Dame, huh? I would guess not. That is quite the look. Third team all Big Sky. Adams setting up the screen now. And the catch is made for a short game by Shaq Hill. I'll tell you what, this Montana defense, they're getting after the quarterback, and they're shutting down the yards after catch.
They most certainly are. They're making sure tackles, which is what you coach and what you hope your guys can do. And if you look at that game earlier in the year, Montana versus Eastern Washington, it was big plays that really was the difference for Eastern Washington in that game. So far today, Montana's been able to limit those.
And that was Herbert Gamboa again, the junior from San Clemente, California. It's now 3rd and 12 for Eastern. Only 2.7 yards per play today. They average close to 7 on the season. Backside pressure, and Adams is hit, and he's sacked back at the 41. And that is the star, Zach Wagaman, his 3rd sack. Is he a difference maker or what?
That's the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year. Wagaman's going to come right off tackle there. It's one-on-one. He's got one-on-one with the tackle, and he just beats him around the corner. But one of the things that's great about Montana all year, when you have a guy like Zach Wagaman, and even on the other side, Tyrone Holmes, number 91, we've seen him make some plays as well. They literally can get to the quarterback blitzing with just 4 guys. So there's no reason to blitz. You can drop in coverage. You can do whatever you want in coverage when you got a defensive end like that.
5th sack today for the Grizz. That has been a big story here, getting after Adams, the Peyton Award candidate. Miller with a kick that bounces to win at the 17. Makes a man miss, has some room down the sideline, and he's bumped out of bounds near the 35-yard line. So the Montana defense has slowed down the top scoring offense at the FCS level. And we're locked up in a good one here in Cheney. 7-3, second quarter. A 7-3 Eastern Washington lead, just over 5 minutes to go second quarter. Zach Wagaman, the All-American, with 3 sacks. The defense has been stellar.
They have been stellar all day. I mean, Wagaman, we talked about him being an impact. Boy, has he made one in this game. Vernon Adams just hasn't had the time. He's been pressured and flushed out of the pocket. This time, Tyrone Holmes gets there first, and Wagaman cleans it up. And then on a running play, Wagaman just going to come from the backside, almost strip the ball out there. And then, as we just saw, beats the tackle around the corner to sack Vernon Adams. I mean, this is a matchup we're going to be watching all day. Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year versus the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year.
What a difference maker he is. Only 65 yards total offense for Eastern. Now can the Montana offense take advantage? Canada on the carry to the left side, and he's shut down.
Yeah, and that's been the biggest thing here that you have to look at for Montana on offense. Their defense is playing so well. So a lot of times the offense can feed off of that energy. They can feed off of that success. But Montana just hasn't had a lot of daylight and a lot to be proud of so far on offense. And you got to credit Eastern Washington for playing good D as well. We're seeing a defensive football game right now.
This is the second meeting between these two. They know each other well. Right now the defenses have learned the most from that matchup about a month ago. Here's Johnson. Has some time in the pocket. Now he'll roll right, looking to run it. And that's read well by Eastern Washington. Shut down by Micaiah Zamora, the weak side linebacker.
Yeah, Zamora's going to come over and make a good play there, but you got to credit Eastern Washington for just playing good D and good coverage. And one of the things that we talked about this, we could beat it with a dead horse. Coach Delaney, head coach of Montana, said they need to be out of 3rd and longs. They have been in 3rd and longs a bunch today.
Here we go again, 3rd and 10. There's 2 of 7 on 3rd down. Montana has just 1 play over 10 yards. That's the only play over 10 yards we have had today from either team. We need one here to keep this drive going. Johnson rolling right. Throws on the run. Has a man, Saylor, and he can't connect with him. He was open, the tight end near the 40-yard line.
Now that's one of those Johnson's going to wish that he could have back, because he's got a wide open tight end in Mitch Saylor streaking across the middle. Now this is tough because he has to make a throw across the body and doesn't put enough oomph on it. He's mad at himself there because he knows that's one he should make.
Neither team able to generate much offensively. Remember the block punt setting up a 2-yard touchdown pass for Eastern Washington in the first quarter. And here's Chris Leiter again. Another booming kick spiraling downward. Cup's going to stay away from it, and that'll go out of bounds. See where they mark that, at the 19-yard line. Effective kick. with 3:44 to go, 47 yards. We'll take a break. A good battle between Big Sky rivals. 4-point game in Cheney.
For nearly 40 years, Musco has specialized in the design and manufacture of sports and large area lighting solutions. From neighborhood ball fields to international speedways, Musco is committed to providing cost-effective lighting solutions and services you can rely on. For your budget, for the environment, Musco Lighting, we make it happen.
7-3 Eastern Washington leading it as we near halftime here after the punt. The Eagles running a play with Jabari Wilson. He carries it off the right side for 8 yards to the 28, and a 2nd down and 2 for Adams and company. Not able to generate much offensively. They swing it into the slot. Catch made by Cooper Kupp, and Kupp has a 1st down out to the 33. They appear most comfortable in this hurry-up pace.
Yeah, they do. And once again, all it really does is it forces the offense to not think. They really have to just kind of react. And that's what you do when you pick up your tempo and go in sort of a 2-minute style in terms of not huddling, but rushing up to the line and calling a play.
1st down as we hit the 3-minute mark now. Single back and 3 receivers for Vernon Adams, the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. They'll hand it off. Slanting to the right side is Wilson, and Wilson with a nice carry up to the 40-yard line, and he has a 1st down.
We're really seeing a heavy dose of Jabari Wilson right now. Now keep in mind, Quincy Forte is the starter, but we mentioned him. He's been beat up and battle tested throughout the year, so he's had some injuries, hasn't really been 100% healthy. So that's allowed Wilson to get some time, and Wilson's taking advantage right now.
They don't lose a lot with Wilson. He had 132 yards and 3 touchdowns in a win at Portland State this year. It'll be 2nd down and 2 after an 8-yard pickup. And here's Wilson again putting his head down, and he's close to the 1st down marker. Tackle made by Crittenden again at that end spot.
And what you have to look for when an offense continues to run the same play or the same play is that play action next. That's what you do. You set a defense up, keep baiting them, hand it off to Wilson, hand it off, play action, and try to throw it deep. You know, a name we haven't spoken a lot about is Cooper Kupp in this game because he hasn't gone deep. We haven't seen them air it out with Vernon Adams as of yet.
They're going to bring these sticks out and measure here with the ball resting at the 42-yard line. This is a Montana team that really played the best defense of any team this year in the last matchup, allowing only 36 points to Eastern Washington with Adams at quarterback. That had to give him a little bit of confidence. But Mick Delaney, I think, has this game right where he wants it right now. He's just looking for some more offense.
He is. He's looking for some more offense. But, you know, you got to credit Montana with the game plan coming in defensively right now. They've been able to get to Vernon Adams, disrupt his flow, pressure him with only 4 linemen. Not blitzing, not adding any of that. So when you can do that, you can do some creative things in coverages and take some people out, such as Cooper Kupp. That's why we haven't heard his name much here.
Empty backfield for Vernon Adams. 5-receiver look. Rushing for Montana. Adams, there's Kupp. He's across midfield, and he spins short of the 1st down. As he's turned back, Matt Hermanson was in there from his safety position. Stay with us coming up at halftime. A father and son story. We'll take a look at the FCS scores, and there have been some interesting games going on across the country. The FCS championship and highlights and stats as well. It's been a defensive battle here in the 1st half thus far.
And I think that's surprising, I think, to a lot of people, us included. You know, these are 2 prolific offenses that put up a lot of numbers, but it's been an all defensive matchup so far.
On 2nd and 1, here's Forte trying to get to the outside, has a 1st down as he turns it back against the grain, and he's down to the Grizzlies' 46-yard line. Well, they have a chance to regain a little momentum here despite having the lead if they can score before the break.
Yeah, they want to try to get anything on the board, even if they put themselves in position to try to get a field goal here. But Montana, man, they're playing lights out on defense so far.
See Crittenden there, Van Ackeren, their leading tackler at the will linebacker position. They've stepped up against the rush offense. Here's Adams rolling right, throwing on the run, and is the catch made? It is. Kupp got the foot down for a 1st down at the 32.
This is an impressive throw by Vernon Adams here. He's going to roll out and really put this ball on the money where only Cup can catch it. And boy, does he. Gets that foot down as well. We've seen that combination all year, Adams to Cup. Both guys top in the Big Sky at their respective positions. So
13-yard pickup, Whitted over there on the coverage. First down out the 32. Adams pressured again, looking to throw it, and he just gets rid of the football. There it is, that pressure again, and even when they're not getting to the quarterback, they're forcing him to rush things.
It most certainly is. It's having an impact even if you don't have a sack, because you're forcing an incredible quarterback in Vernon Adams to get out of the pocket and move around and putting him in distress. Montana has done an excellent job just on the edges, specifically with Zach Wagaman and Tyrone Holmes. They have been getting to the quarterback.
Ty Gregorak has to be pleased, the defensive coordinator. The key was to keep everything in front. Got to tackle better. They've done that as well. Adams will hand it off. Forte off the right side, carrying a tackler down to the 36-yard line. The play was made by Zach Peavy, the nose tackle. Third down coming up.
Yeah, they're just going to hand this off to Forte coming across the formation. Just going to get a few extra yards. That's good, tough running there, what they like to see. But we've seen a heavy dose of a number of different backs for Eastern Washington. Forte's carried it. Jabari Wilson has carried it a ton. We even saw Mario Brown early on in the first quarter. So they're giving a heavy dose of this running back group by committee.
Timeout call by the Eagles with a 3rd and 4 facing Eastern Washington. Let's take a look at the FCS bracket and where we stand. You see New Hampshire, the #1 overall seed, advancing to take on Chattanooga. Illinois State awaits the winner here. Sure. If Eastern Washington wins, they'll be hosting again.
Yeah, they'll be right back here next week, which is exactly what you're looking for Coach Baldwin and this Eagle team. But you talk about some good games, and we check out the other side here. Look at Sam Houston State with the big win over the #3 seeded Jacksonville State. That's a big win for Sam Houston in that program.
That's a traditional power, the Bearcats. And then Coastal Carolina and Joe Moglia, they went to Missoula last year and won a game in adverse conditions. Had a great season. Another big year this year. And here's what's at stake. A trip to the quarterfinals and a date with the Redbirds. Somebody needs to win here on the red turf, though. 3rd and 3 for Adams and the Eagles. Throws to the sideline, and that's a first down grab. Hauled in by Shaq Hill. They left enough space for him over there, and they made that look easy.
Yeah, this is just a nice job by Vernon Adams going through his progressions here. He, of course, was looking for his dominant wide receiver in Cooper Kupp, but he was covered up, and so he comes back, finds his other receiver in Shaq Hill. First down. Excellent job by the quarterback, keeping the play alive.
You see those red zone numbers. The 2 they did not score on, they actually took a knee at end of game. So they have, in all likelihood, and the comment is that they have not made any mistakes down there in the red zone.
Very effective in the red zone so far.
Pressure coming. Backside. Adams throws for the corner. Incomplete. It was Jake Withnell. He thought he had it, but it hit the turf.
Yeah, Jake Withnell, did it hit the ground is the question here. Adams is just going to get flushed out again by that pressure and has to throw a ball. Does it hit the ground? Does Whitney get his hands underneath it? As we take another look here, of course the crowd thinks he did. Should be a good shot here. Does that ball hit the ground? Oh, really close. Looks like that right hand might have scooped the ball there a little bit.
And there you see the call. The call is incomplete on the field.
Looks like they're going to take another look.
Previous play is under further review.
Jake Withnell, who has just one catch all year, a 6'4", 245-pound tight end out of Salem, Oregon. The ruling on the field again incomplete. So do they have enough to overturn this?
That's the question. Is it indisputable evidence? Can you see his hand get underneath that ball before it actually hits the ground? Is the question. You know, this is the second sort of controversial call that we've seen in this game as we get another look.
Side judge is right on that.
There. He's right there. I mean, no one has a better look than he does at that point. But again, the second controversial call in this game. You know, we saw from Montana earlier with the Canada fumble. was the guy out of bounds and recovering it, and they ended up going to Montana on that one. And this one, talk about a big difference in this game it'll make. Let the refs sort this thing out here. Did he get that hand underneath the ball? Man, I tell you, it's so hard to see sometimes. It's hard to see. And,
again,
when you're looking at it, see, does that hand get underneath now? From that shot, I mean, it seems like he has control. Falls down, inbounds, all the textbook stuff that you say, but again, it has to be indisputable evidence the other way, because the call on the field right now is an incomplete pass. So they need to be for sure when they watch that footage that he's caught the ball in order to reverse the call. And it just looks like it could be, you know, and most of the time in that, they're going to side with what the call on the field was.
Yeah, no one had a better view than the side judge there. Right on top of that, you saw that he was taken out at the end of the play, but that's after the play had finished. Yeah. Here's a look.
Look at the side judge here, right here by the pylon. He's there. He sees it before he gets taken out. I mean, he's eyeballs on it. He does get undercut there.
After further review, the ruling on the field stands. Second down.
You know, and that's probably the right call if we're being honest, because it has to be indisputable evidence. You just couldn't tell if that left arm got underneath the ball or not.
So a couple calls have gone against Bo Baldwin here.
They most certainly have. Montana can chuck up the ferry for 2, as they have gotten 2 gracious calls here that have had a major impact on this game.
2 timeouts to work with. Still 29 seconds. 2nd and 10 now for Adams in the pistol formation. It'll be Forte straight ahead. And a nice gain down to the 12. It'll set up a 3rd down from there.
Yeah, and they're just going to try to keep this in the middle if they can, so that they can give their kicker an opportunity to make a field goal here and put themselves in position for it. But now it's 3rd down. A huge 3rd down for Montana on defense, because if you stop them here, you at least can limit them to a field goal try. But if they get a 1st down, odds are they're at least going to take a shot at the end zone.
Absolutely. There are 2 schools of thought here. You can take a shot at the end zone right here.
Now, yeah.
Or believing that you've got that timeout in 24 seconds, a chance to run a few plays. If you can move the chains. Here's a look at the drive so far.
Been an impressive drive, 12 plays, taking 3 minutes off the clock on their own 19. So a long drive, long methodical drive for the Eagles here, trying to punch it in for Coach Baldwin in this just impressive offense.
And Coach Delaney, I don't think people that don't follow this conference understand how big this is to hold the Eagles to just 7 points so far. This is a team that scored 50+ in 6 games this year.
They have, and they're averaging over 44 points a game on the season. So only having 7 right now is a huge win for Montana.
13th play of the drive, 3rd and 4. Adams has plenty of time.
They're taking a shot.
They go underneath the hill, makes the catch inside the 5. He's got the 1st down, but it'll be held short of the end zone. They do have the timeout left. Did he get out of bounds?
It's a good job by Montana converging on the receiver here, but he's looking for Cup. Adams is looking for Cup. They're actually taking a shot here. Cup's not open, so he goes down to his next read, which is Shaq Hill, coming across the middle there. But good job gang tackling by Montana.
He did get out of bounds, and now Adams is going to spike it. So they've got a chance to run a couple plays here, and they still have the timeout left.
Yeah, so they put themselves in good position to give themselves an opportunity to run a few plays, try to get this ball in the end zone.
Now you can even risk a run here, Darius, because you've got that timeout in your back pocket.
You do, and then with how Jabari Wilson has been running the football so effectively, especially in this drive and early on in this game, you have to think that we'll see a heavy dose of number 2 on this next play.
And now a timeout. Now, so much for that. Eagles will use the last one here.
Take a look at it. Not exactly sure why the Eagles used that last timeout here. You know, we mentioned where they could run the football.
It was Montana that used it instead.
Okay, Montana used it. Okay. So Montana wanted to talk about this again, which isn't necessarily bad for Coach Delaney and the Grizz, because the Eagles came out in an empty formation. So, you know, a lot of people probably weren't necessarily ready for that on the Montana side. So you call a timeout, regroup.
7-3 here with 13 seconds to go as we update the scoreboard in the FCS playoff. Illinois State, a convincing win over UNI. And how about the Jackrabbits in Fargo giving the Bison, the 3-time defending champs, all they want in the fourth quarter?
An amazing game right now, 17-17. That's a good game right there. And the other interesting one is just this Richmond-Coastal Carolina game. Richmond was a good football team, but you mentioned it as we see here today. You got to show up to play in these playoff games or you're going to get beat.
Here we go after the timeout now by Montana. 2nd and goal from the 3. It's Adams on the quarterback draw. He runs into his lineman, dives, and he's in for the touchdown. Vernon Adams ran into Jay Dynas' guard, but found a way in, and a big touchdown before the break.
Impressive job by Adams here. This is just a cold run. He's going to fake the pass, run into his lineman, and then get the ball around. That's just Vernon Adams making a play there. But you got to credit Coach Baldwin in this call. Talk about a gutsy call to have a called run for your quarterback in a situation like that. That's impressive. But that just goes to show you how much will they think that Vernon Adams has.
That's a 15-play, 81-yard drive. What a way to get the momentum back for Eastern Washington. We're going to take a look at this now.
Take another
Make
look.
sure he got in.
The question is does his knee hit the ground before he gets that ball over the end zone? That's what they're going to look at, but it looks pretty clear to me. That's a touchdown. Excellent drive, though. You mentioned it. You put together a drive like that to cap it off. You're taking that momentum into the second half.
How hard is it to come back after breaking your right foot and missing 4 games and still playing at an elite level like this?
And to be able to run the football effectively, too, as well. That just goes to show you what kind of player he is, what kind of will he has. I can tell you, foot injuries are not easy to come back from.
5th rushing touchdown for Adams. The play stands. Tyler McNanny, the junior, for the extra point, and he missed it. He missed it right. So it's a 10-point game with 9 seconds to go in the second quarter.
Just missed that one. Take another look at the score here. Vernon Adams, they're going to do a called run, fake pass, and he gets the ball over the end zone line. But you just talk about a dominant player. I mean, he's been so consistent and so successful. And then to come back from injuries, I mean, I'm so impressed that he was able to miss 4 games, miss a whole month of football, and still is the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year.
Well, Bo Baldwin has coached some great ones, and they have been consistent. Top 10 passing team each and every year nationally. And look at this. All but 1 quarter they have scored. I mean, this is a team that expects to outscore people to get into shootouts. Their defense has played really well today also.
Yeah, they have. They're putting together a complete game, but you got to credit Montana for staying in this game. Listen, if we look a month ago when Montana and Eastern Washington faced off, that game was 33-10 in the first half. It's a completely different outcome right now for Montana. They're still in this football game.
There were a couple big plays that ended up hurting Coach Delaney's team there. A punt return. They had 4 plays Eastern did on offense of over 30 yards for scores. And Montana really played well in the second half. And they're hoping that maybe will be the story here today if they can keep this close, and then maybe a big push to get them in position to win it. Right now a 10-point lead. A squib kick by Miller. And they play it close to the vest as it's returned out to the 42-yard line, and maybe one more play, a shot downfield for the Grizz.
Or maybe a knee.
Or maybe, yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
2 schools of thought there. What do you think?
I don't know. I think if it's me right now, Montana has to be saying to themselves that they're playing a good enough game, specifically on defense, to give themselves a shot when they're coming back out in the second half. So live to fight another day, as they say. Take the knee and get in at halftime down 10.
Well, Eastern not taking any chances. They have 5 safeties back deep, standing inside the 30.
Looks like they're going to take a timeout here just to make sure they have the right dime coverage in.
Mick Delaney has been so important to the state of Montana. Lifelong coach. He was a former high school coach, wrestling coach, football coach, Montana State assistant, Colorado State under Sonny Lubick, and now with the Grizz.
Yeah, the other thing that a lot of people don't talk about a lot with Delaney is how much of a running back whisperer he was. I mean, he knows running backs. He knows them. You look at some of the guys that he's coached. He's done a great job
The NCAA Division I Football Championship continues next weekend. Quarterfinal games December 13th. All games on the Watch ESPN app and ESPN3.com. For more info, NCAA.com, the official online home for all 89 NCAA championships. They do take the knee, and it's a 13-3 Eastern Washington lead as we head to halftime here in Cheney. Well-played football game.
Good game so far. A lot of smash mouth football on both sides, but one of the things neither one of us expected coming into this game, especially me, was two power defenses.
Only 2 plays over 10 yards in this game. It's been all about the defense. A big score from Adams and company, though, and they take a 10-point lead into the break on the red turf. For cancer research on ESPN as we continue our commitment to the V Foundation and Jim Valvano's dream to defeat cancer. It's been an entertaining game here at the Inferno, the red turf of Roos Field in Cheney, Washington. Big play early from Eastern Washington special teams. We've not seen Vernon Adams, a Peyton Award candidate, have big numbers, but he's capable of really breaking things open in the second half.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that if you give him a crease or give him a chance, he is going to make you pay for that.
Let's take a look at some scores across the country in the FCS playoff picture, and a lot of eyes on the Fargo Dome right now. South Dakota State trying to spring the upset in that Missouri Valley rematch.
Well, you saw them. You said they were for real, and you said they were good, man. I'm patting you on the back right now if they take this one.
Well, Zach Zenner is a sensational running back, one of the best in the country, and Liberty has a lead at halftime. So we've seen some surprises.
We have. We've seen a few upsets. You look at that Sam Houston State game against Jacksonville State. They upset them. South Dakota's right now winning in this fourth quarter. Liberty's up. Some upsets, man. You got to come to play on playoff. FCS playoffs, you got to come to play.
Can Mick Delaney spring the upset here? His team within striking distance. They've got to find a way to generate some offense. Is that in the run game? Is that part of the plan?
You know, that is. They have to do a bigger dose, I think, of Jabari Wilson and Quincy Forte. They're 2 running backs. They have come and they've ran the ball well when they actually do hand it to them. So you got to be able to jump in and do that if you're Eastern Washington, to continue to have that balance so Vernon Adams doesn't just have all that pressure on him.
Bo Baldwin, there's been talk that he may potentially move on. There's been some FBS interest from Oregon State for Mick Delaney at Montana. On the other side, it's his final season at the helm at Montana, but both highly regarded coaches, and they have done things at the highest level in postseason play. And we're in for an interesting second half as Eastern Washington will get the football first. Shaq Hill's going to take a knee, and it'll be a touchback to start things. Eastern Washington, with the exception of that last drive, really not able to do much at all offensively.
Yeah, they haven't been able to move the ball a whole lot, and you have to credit Montana and their defense. I mean, they have been able to get to the quarterback and cause disruption for Vernon Adams in this Eastern Washington offense. They really have.
The 2-time Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. Look at the numbers so far for Adams. The completion attempt ratio good, but not big numbers.
Yeah, it hasn't put up big numbers. And the other thing, you know, we have to look at is that they haven't really aired it out with him. We haven't seen Cooper Kupp go deep yet. Maybe we'll see a dose of that here in the second half.
On the 25-yard line, they'll start with a run, and it's a big carry. Breaking it open is Quincy Forte across the 45 to the 46. 21-yard pickup for the senior from Fairfield, California.
Nice off-tackle run by Quincy Forte here. He's just going to get to that line quick, and then that one cut up the field makes one guy miss, rumbles around. That's exactly what you want for Eastern Washington. They're trying to keep it balanced.
Now they'll go to the air to Cooper Kupp, and he has a first down reception. That goes for 12 yards down to the 43. A run and a pass to a couple of the stars on offense, and the Eagles off and rolling.
And you see them with this up-tempo. They started to do this in the second quarter right before halftime. They jumped into an up-tempo offense. They're continuing that here in the third quarter.
This time it's a play fake for Adams. He rolls and throws it. A flag is thrown in the backfield. It's caught by Wimberly, the tight end, and he goes out of bounds at the 33. They may be backing him up.
Yeah, it looks like it could have been clipping there in the back.
Personal foul, clipping number 59. 15-yard penalty, second down.
They caught him with that. Now that's huge for Eastern Washington. You talk about the momentum that they have from 2 good plays driving downfield, and then you shoot yourselves in the foot here as we take a look at this clipping call right in the middle of your screen there, trying to get Wagaman down. so that he doesn't add a fourth sack to his total today.
That was a center, Jace Baturak, the fifth-year senior.
Yeah, he's their leader. He's their vocal leader on offensive line, so you don't want to see that out of your captain.
First and 25 now, just underway third quarter. Eastern Washington a couple touchdowns, a missed extra point in that first half. Adams, pressure coming from Wagaman. He rolls left, now throws back against the grain, and the catch is made. It's hauled in by Nick Splendorio, a redshirt freshman, and they get some of the yardage back to the 47. Van Ackeren on the tackle.
You still got to continue to credit Montana and this defense for causing problems for Vernon Adams and the Eastern Washington Eagles. Their quarterback is flushed out of the pocket literally every play. Every time he tries to pass, he's having to move around.
Keith Van Ackeren, their leading tackler out of Bellevue, Washington in the Seattle area. Second and 20 now after the 5-yard pickup. 3 down linemen, they'll rush 3. Adams over the middle, Cup with a great catch inside the 35. In traffic, hauling that one in, and he's not shy about going over the middle.
That's an impressive for both players there, and Vernon Adams delivering a strike to Cooper Kupp, running the post route here. Kupp's on the outside, runs a post route right towards the middle of the field, able to grab it right before he hits the ground. That combination has been lethal all year.
18-yard pickup, 9 catches, 79 yards for Kupp. Here's Forte trying to get to the outside on 3rd and short, and he's not going to get there. Shut down. Hermanson in there, and the guys up front, Holmes and others, closing the wall.
This brings up a big opportunity right now for both sides. What do you do if you're Eastern Washington? You go for this 4th and 3, trying to knock on the door here, and it looks like they're going to. With Baldwin with a gutsy call here.
A lot of confidence in this offense. You can see what they've done on 4th down this season. And with Adams at the helm, he can make a lot of things happen. They go single back. They'll go for it on 4th down. Adams to the sideline. Catch made for a first down. They move the chains with the grab by Kendrick Bourne. So much confidence, and there really wasn't a lot of hesitation there.
Not a hesitation at all for Coach Baldwin and his staff to decide to go for it on 4th and 3rd in that kind of opportunity. This is just amazing as you see Adams here. And hit Kendrick Bourne running a curl route, comes back for the ball. That's an impressive play. Love the confidence in the offense, though. I love it.
So the last 2 drives starting to rack up some first downs. They're 15-6 in that category. The advantage to the Eagles on the march here. Opening drive, 3rd quarter. Forte again in the backfield behind Adams. Adams to the right sideline, and the catch made for short yardage, if anything at all, as that was read pretty well over there. Caught by Kupp for nothing.
This is basically they're doing the same thing they were doing in the 2nd quarter, where they're seeing that these corners are playing deep coverage. They're not pressing the wide receivers on the outside, so they're going to continue to do those look passes and those quick passes. You got a player like that.
They actually marked the football at the 23. Looked like a favorable spot there. Pickup of 4, 2nd and 6 now. Nearing the red zone again. Adams on the play fake, and it's dropped by Withnell. That had some mustard on it. He tried to go high to get it with a 6'4" frame. Tough to bring in.
Yeah, he did. Vernon Adams rifles this football in there. Withnell got to be able to bring that in, though. I mean, it was a. It was a hard pass, so to speak, but that hit both hands. Got to be able to bring that in.
Well, you're a great receiver at Notre Dame. I get the record for running backs catching footballs at Notre Dame, from what I understand.
I did all right, man. I had an okay career there.
3rd and 6 for Adams. Fires it for the corner of the end zone. Open for the touchdown grab is Corey Mitchell. And that looked like a miscommunication there, and Adams jumped all over it with a touchdown pass, and it's 19-3.
There certainly was a break in coverage here. Corey Mitchell, the senior, 6'2". He's got 4 touchdown catches on the season. He double moves and is wide open in the front of the end zone. Big time play and a big time drive for Eastern Washington. You know, we talked about the momentum and how they were going to be able to carry that after the 2nd quarter when they drove down and scored the touchdown. You see it continues here early in the third quarter.
The fifth-year senior, Corey Mitchell, with his brother Bo Levi, watching his 5th touchdown grab of the season. McNanny for the extra point, and he gets this one. 20-3. Eastern Washington starting to heat up. They do it via the air this time.
They love it. Gotta love it here. Back-to-back touchdowns. Corey Mitchell again. They're up 20-3.
A 9-play, 75-yard touchdown drive to open up the second half for Eastern Washington, now leading by 17. Let's revisit the Northwestern Mutual planning for success.
Yeah, these are the main things that both teams wanted to establish coming in today. And for the Grizz, it was score in the red zone, score touchdowns there. They've been there twice, have yet to do so. They did come away with 3 points and then limit those big plays. It was 4 plays over 10 yards in that last drive for Eastern Washington. On the flip side for Eastern Washington, they're going to stay balanced and then force them to be one-dimensional. When you're up 3-score game right now, Montana's looking real one-dimensional-ish.
So a 20-3 lead after the Corey Mitchell touchdown catch. The kickoff is short, fielded by Wilson, who doubles as their fullback, and he brings it up to the 34-yard line. Well, this is a Montana team that did not want to get down early, but now they find themselves down by 17 and in catch-up posture, much like the first meeting.
Yeah, you know, it was 2 things they didn't want to do in this game on offense. One of those things was they did not want to be in a bunch of 3rd and longs. They've been in 3rd and long all day. The other thing was get down early in this game because that would make them one-dimensional, which is kind of what we see here today, see here now. They got to throw the ball and air it out just to try to get back in the game.
You can see the Johnson numbers. He's going to have to put up big numbers now through the air to get them back into this one. It's not been a great game for Jordan Canada thus far. Here's a play fake by Johnson out of the backfield. Van with the catch. Van makes a man miss. He can make plays in the open field, and he has a first down up to the 45-yard line. That's one of the guys that can get you back quickly.
Yeah, and he's one of those guys that has had a quite good game here. You know, he's a backup running back that they'll move out to wide receiver. He's got a couple catches today. Big play there, but they're trying to start to unravel a little bit of a drive here.
4 catches, 40 yards for Trayvon Van, the senior from San Diego. 4 receiver look for Johnson. The senior fires it left side. Sean Haynes with a catch, and that's a first down. He's run out of bounds at the Eagles' 40-yard line. Up tempo now, and this is the way they're hoping to get themselves back into this one.
Yeah, they're going back to what they did in the first half since these corners are playing so off. They hit Sean Haynes on a look pass because that corner is playing 10 to 15 yards off.
Haynes is a 5th-year senior from Los Angeles. A couple big pass plays, and now on the Eagles side of the field. Johnson, right sideline. And not able to get free over there is Van. That was a nice defensive play by Victor Gamboa. He holds him to a short gain.
And once again, I think, you know, on the flip side, as we talked about for Eastern Washington coming into the second half, we were looking for the big plays to Cooper Kupp over the top, airing it out. I think we would love to see that now against with Montana, to throw this thing up in the air and really air it out and take some shots, what they've yet to do.
Johnson put it in the air 52 times in the first matchup here, a 36-26 loss. 2nd and 7. And they're going to run the football here, right side, and it's a nice gain for Canada. As they start with a pass, that opens up the run game, and that's a first down to the 29-yard line.
It's all about staying balanced right now for Montana on offense. They're trying to answer the touchdown drive that Eastern Washington had coming back out of that in the beginning of the third quarter.
This is a guy that has 14 career 100-yard games, 6 100-yard games this season, and trying to get on track here in the third quarter. Standing behind Johnson this time. Johnson rolling right. He's going to run it. It looked like he wanted to run all the way there, and he picks up a couple yards.
You know, for Montana, you know, they really are trying to answer here. They know how important this drive is. You're down 20-3. Eastern Washington has all the momentum right now. You could get down by a lot in this game if you don't make a statement right here and try to get this game close again.
Offensive co-captain, 3rd in school history in touchdown passes. 2nd and 9 after that short gain to the far sideline. Jones is in a slot left, bottom of the screen. Johnson looking right side, and it's tipped and it's intercepted. Todd Raines, the strong safety, off the deflection for Eastern Washington, and they get a huge turnover here as he takes it back to the 28.
Sometimes being in the right place at the right time is all it takes. As we see Johnson roll out and throw this ball. Tip balls, man, I hate them. I hate them because sometimes they resort in this. But a big heads-up play by Todd Raines to catch this football on the deflection and take it back for positive yardage. You know, Montana was itching at pulling at some of that momentum. And you got to have a question here, you know, was that pass interference? It looks somewhat close to me looking at that. Maybe that might be one the ref should have called.
That was Van, the intended receiver, with Gamboa draped all over him. And again, you mentioned it, Raines, the junior, right spot, right time for the big pick. Eagles now will run it, and they go with Jabari Wilson for a short gain.
As you take a look at Todd Raines' season here, 29 tackles, a couple of picks. Just got a big one there, none bigger than that one there, because Montana was trying to start knocking on the board, putting together a nice methodical drive. Shut it down with the interception.
It's 18 interceptions as a team. They've had the ability to come up with big plays at the right time, whether it's special teams or on defense, have helped out their dynamic offense. They go again to Wilson, and the Grizz shut that one down. Short yardage, a yard maybe, that's all, as that was Kosei at the point of attack.
Kosei comes in, of course, in conjunction with Zach Wegman. He comes in and continues to make plays. I mean, he's a guy who we can't say enough about the impact that he's had on this game already. 3 sacks.
Montana would love to turn them over here. They need something positive to happen for their offense.
They need something right now. They most certainly do, because they have been playing well on defense, even though they're down 3 possessions.
3rd and 7. 4 receivers, 2 to each side. Pressure coming. Gamboa on the blitz. Adams steps up, fires downfield, and it's knocked away at the last minute. Intended for Bourne, and Joshua Denard was right with him.
Yeah, he makes an excellent play. Denard does here at corner. Takes his play a little bit of a while to develop. They go with that double move we saw Cooper Kupp do earlier. But this time, Joshua Denard gets his hand up, bats that ball down. Good play by the Grizz on defense.
Second team all Big Sky corner as Ty Gregorak's D steps up there. They're hoping for a little help from the offense now. Jake Miller gets the punt away from his 22. End over end, the punt returner Wynn stumbles, and that will roll inside the 20 and die at the 17-yard line. Just over 7 minutes to go, 3rd quarter. 20-3 Eastern Washington. Will the Eagles win for the 5th time in 6 tries against the Grizz? Looking pretty good at home.
If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
Help us beat cancer. The V Foundation awards 100% of direct donations and net proceeds of events to fund cancer research. Log on www.jimmyv.org or call 1-800-4-JIMMY-V to donate. 100% of all direct cash donations to cancer research. And a great thing, and can't talk about it enough.
Yeah, it's very important. Very important that you donate.
17-point lead for Eastern Washington as Montana, trailing here, might have to go to the air a little bit more as they start this series from the 17. Johnson looking downfield, nothing available. Flushed out of the pocket. Jordan Johnson finally throws late, and that's out of bounds. Credit the coverage downfield.
That's really what that was. You got to credit it. But I agree, I would love to see Jordan Johnson and them air it out.
We've got a flag now.
Have a flag down.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, 93 defense, 15-yard penalty, automatic first down.
Marcus Sagan, the freshman defensive end.
They got the freshman for a late hit here. Man, sometimes, you know, when you relook at a replay, it may not look as bad as it potentially did in the act when it happened.
Well, that's a big play there.
Huge play.
15 yards. They move it up to the 33-yard line. Sagan's had a couple bad things happen to him. He was out of bounds on a play where they thought they had a fumble recovery.
The freshman is learning. It's all learning experiences right now.
Johnson, Van with the catch. Van has a first down, and he's up to midfield. Van is a guy, again, that, you know, he's explosive, and they need those kind of players in space. Let's give you a score update now at the FCS playoffs. The Bison get it done, Darius, in Fargo.
Oh, man, down 24-20 late in that game, and they come back and win it, man. The Jackrabbits come up short.
Great effort, great season for South Dakota State, but the Bison, the three-time defending FCS champs, move on to the quarters. Johnson now rolling right, looking to run it, and he's out of bounds. Giving chase was Tevin McDonald on that far side. So we update the bracket now. We move North Dakota State into the quarterfinals. They'll get Coastal Carolina. Sam Houston State awaiting the winner of Liberty Villanova.
Yeah, that's going to be a good game, that Coastal Carolina, North Dakota State. I mean, the Bison, they've had tremendous years the last 3 to 4. But man, when you get exposed like they did today, I guarantee that Coastal Carolina is going to be doing some of what South Dakota State did.
And the Bison are going to be listening to the coach this week, I'm sure. That probably woke him up a little bit. Johnson gonna run it on first down, puts his head down, has a first down to the 38. Johnson looking to run more, and he has those options available.
Yeah, you know, he's doing a good job of going through his progressions and going through his reads, and then when nothing's there, immediately deciding to tuck the ball and run with it. That's an experienced quarterback to be able to do that on the fly that fast.
And Coach Delaney picking up the tempo now on offense. They hurry up to the line of scrimmage, first down at the 38-yard line. Johnson has the snap. Canada running left, has a seam, look out. Canada to 20, and he's going to take it to the house. Touchdown Montana, 38 yards for Jordan Canada. His 11th rushing touchdown, and that's a big score for the Grizz.
A huge score for the Grizz. Jordan Canada is just going to take this across the formation, sees that one hole, and it's over. Once he hits that hole, it is a wrap. There's no stopping him. We talked about him at the top coming into this game, already over 1,000 yards rushing. He is their bell cow. They want to get him the football as much as they can.
Fourth in school history in career rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. He has 27 in his career as he takes that one in to draw him within 10.
This is exactly what Coach Delaney wanted, was to run the football. Jordan Canada takes it the distance, brings him one step closer to down 10 points.
The co-captain on offense, Jordan Canada, with a 38-yard touchdown run, the fifth-year senior from Duarte, California. Big drive.
Yeah, this is a huge drive that Montana desperately needed here. Starts off with Johnson continuing to keep a play alive, and then the late hit continues to drive it, and they hand it off and let Canada do the rest with his legs. He takes it the distance here. But this was a drive and score that Montana desperately needed to get back into this game, because they have not had a lot of success on offense. And you see, time to get the troops riled up here.
Defensive coordinator John Graham letting his team know about that effort on that last drive. It's a 10-point game. They had a chance to maybe bust this open, but Montana right back in this one now. Shaq Hill will not return this. It'll be a touchback for Eastern Washington.
So you talk about, teams trading blows, thinking of it as a boxer trading blows. Eastern Washington had the first hit when they came out, first drive, scored a touchdown on that first drive of that third quarter, and then now Montana responds with a TD. They take their blow and respond. So now it's a bit of a chess match. Let's see what happens here. But Montana pulling at that momentum a little bit, tugging at that string.
Montana had some great moments defensively, getting after the quarterback in the first half, but Eastern has turned the tables on him. How did the Grizz get back to what they did early on in this game?
It's all about creating pressure and making sure that Vernon Adams is uncomfortable in the pocket. So if they can continue to get pressure, only bringing 4, they're going to have a chance for a lot of success on defense.
The Grizz played well in the second half in the matchup. A loss here. As you see the total yardage numbers in favor of the Eagles. They'll run it on first down, and it's a big gain. Out to the 32-yard line. Carried by Wilson. It's Forte, actually.
Forte makes a nice move there. Let's get a look at Adams coming up here, but Forte makes a very, very good move. Makes a guy miss in space, and that's one of the things they love about Quincy. Now, he hasn't been 100% healthy the entire season. He's been nicked up when they have him healthy, he can do some things.
It was an 8-yard pickup, and they'll run it again with Forte, and he puts his head down and moves the pile forward to the 40-yard line. Forte is senior, and they have great senior leadership. And hard to believe that Adams is just a junior.
Here we go.
And we have an injury right now. And that's Terry Jackson, the guy that caught the touchdown pass to open up the game.
Yeah, that's the backup tight end who hasn't been healthy coming into this game. They were so excited to have him back, so hopefully this is something where he can continue to play, get back in the game. Not exactly sure.
Forte now 13 carries, 81 yards. As both Forte and Canada starting to find some seams in the run game. And sometimes you'll find that late in games. But Vernon Adams really, he's the guy, he's the ignition switch. He gets them going, and what a career he has had so far.
Yeah, you talk about an illustrious career for the junior, being a Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year. We mentioned that he was out 4 games this season due to a foot injury, but he's got career TD passes 107, 27 and 5 as a starter. And he is one of the best quarterbacks to come out of Eastern Washington for sure.
Second in the voting for the Peyton Award a year ago, behind Jimmy Garoppolo of Eastern Illinois. This year in the hunt, and if his team keeps winning, he's got a great chance.
Most certainly does. Keep putting up those numbers. Right now they got a big drive here, but they need to answer for Montana's touchdown.
There's been a great tradition of quarterbacks here at Eastern Washington. Jim McElwain, the new head coach at Florida, was a QB here. There's a pass that's tipped, and it is incomplete. Almost picked off by Joshua Denard off the deflection.
Oh, amazing here. Now we saw earlier that Jordan Johnson, his ball, tipped ball, was intercepted. This time, Vernon Adams throws this, and the ball is tipped. Now let's see if Denard comes down with it. Looks like that hits the ground there out of that shot. Great angle.
Deflected off of Hill's hand here.
Hill tried to one-hand it.
And it will be ruled an incomplete pass. Quick decision there. 2nd and 10 at the 40. Adams looking to run. Quarterback draw. And he has a first down or more. Vernon Adams slides down at the Grizz 44-yard line.
This is another design call for Adams to fake a pass and run. The design QB run here. Got to credit Baldwin in this play call. They see the opening in the middle of the field. Secondary is just running back in coverage right when the ball is snapped. So this will keep them honest. Vernon Adams pulling down and running.
16-yard carry there for Bo Baldwin's team as we near the 4-minute mark here, 3rd quarter. Trying to answer that Montana score with a drive of their own for points. Play action. Adams looking downfield. He's going for the deep ball. He wants Cup, and it's incomplete. Threw it behind him. Pretty good coverage down there as Justin Whitted, the strong safety, was with him step for step.
Yeah, Whitted did a good job of staying with what's an electric wide receiver. But Cup, of course, they're still trying to figure out how to get him some balls deep. But Montana's been doing such a good job of coverage. Whitted, Joshua Denard, they've been covering up Cooper Cup pretty good.
Cup hasn't had the big plays. He still does have 10 catches for 83 yards. It shows you how talented he is. 92 catches this season for Cooper Cup. From the 44. Straight ahead, Forte hit in the hole, and he moves it forward to the 40. It'll be a 3rd and 6 from there. Cooper Cup, a sophomore from Yakima, Washington. Peyton Award candidate along with Adams. And then you see the numbers there.
Yeah, he has had a stellar career here in his short time as an Eagle in his 2nd season. We should mention, too, his freshman year, he won that Jerry Rice Award for the best wide receiver in the conference. So he's been electric, fast, and often, probably a lot sooner than the coaches thought.
Yeah, they said that, and they knew he'd be good. He had 93 catches last year, 92 this year. That's consistency. 14 touchdown grabs this season as a sophomore. 3rd and 6 and a timeout. The Eagles will take one here.
Timeout, 30 seconds.
Pivotal 3rd down here, 3rd and 6, to try to continue to keep this drive alive. So they're going to take a timeout and talk about it a little bit.
Bo Baldwin, an Eddie Robinson candidate, and there you see Ty Gregorak, the defensive coordinator on the Montana sideline, trying to devise a scheme here against that potent offense. It has not been an explosive game. Remember, this Eastern Washington team averages 44.6 per game. That's a school record. But they have been effective, and obviously Adams is the guy that makes them go.
Yeah, he's always the guy who the engine starts with. You know, you talk about Brennan Adams and what he's been able to do. This time, it's Jackson coming across the middle, and then decides to take it himself with a 1-yard run. He has been electric today. Talk about this just a few minutes ago. Wide open. So Brennan Adams has continued to deliver as advertised.
Had a school record 7 touchdown passes and a loss at Washington earlier this year. Now he tries to get away from some pressure, then just runs it, and he's close to the first down. He's inside the 35. He made something out of nothing there. Still going to be a little bit short. 4th down coming up.
That's another time where Montana was able to get pressure only blitzing 4. Again, to set him up in 4th down and short here. Now, this is an interesting call. If you're Bolden, what do? 4th down and 1. You got all the confidence in the world in your offense. You got the best player in the conference at quarterback.
Outside of the range of their kicker, McNanny. He's only hit from 43. That's his long. They'll go for it 4th and 1. Quarterback rollout. Adams easily picks up the first down and more, and he runs out of bounds at the 30-yard line.
That's just an excellent play call there for Baldwin and the Eagles. You want to put it on the shoulders of your workhorse. Put it on Adams. Give him an opportunity. Now, they set this up. You know, you think they're going to run up the middle because it's 4th and short, and they just run a nice rollout and say, hey, Adams, just get the first down. That's it. Don't need much more than that.
There's so much talk about him that he doesn't run to look for rushing yardage, but he can do that when they need it, and they get it right there to move the chains. Under 3 minutes to go, 3rd quarter. Again, a play fake. Adams setting up the screen, caught by Wilson, and he's hit and dropped after a short gain. Herbert Gamboa has played a great game at strong side linebacker. The junior stops him.
Yeah, Herbert Gamboa is a solid player. He had 96 total tackles coming in today. You see why. He knows how to get to the football and close fast.
He can run. He's been clocked at 10-7 in the 100 meters at linebacker.
Pretty fast for the big man.
3-yard pickup. Coach Delaney's team would like to at least hold them to 3 here. Stay within a couple scores late 3rd quarter. They're showing blitz, and they're coming from the linebackers. Forte to the outside, gets to the edge. Forte to the 5, to the end zone. Touchdown, Eagles.
That is a dagger for Montana. But boy, Forte, when he gets to the edge, he causes problems. We've seen them run this draw across the formation a number of times, and it has worked each time. When you have a guy with that kind of speed, you get him to the edge. He's so dangerous. And that's why they're so excited to have this guy back. I mean, he hasn't been healthy, but when you look at his numbers, when he touches the ball, he averages 6.9 yards per carry coming into the day.
That's 112 on the ground for Forte. McNanny's extra point is through there, and it's 27-10. Quincy Forte, the senior, with his 8th rushing touchdown this season.
He is just electric when he's healthy, and you see why. He's got that speed when he gets to the edge. He will make you pay. Showing right there why he is the leader at the running back position for the Eagles. Just electric out there.
Wears the same number 22 as Tywan Jones, a former Eagle who is now a member of the Oakland Raiders. And the rush game, not talked about enough probably with Eastern Washington. There's so much talk about that.
There's so much talk about how good their quarterback is, and not to say he isn't as good as advertised, because he is. When you talk about these running backs, Forte, Brown, Wilson, they got a group of guys that are really good.
75 yards, 10 plays. They have that quick strike ability. And that really was a great mix of run and pass to set up that score.
They definitely stayed balanced, but this is going to go all the way back to the last drive that they had in the 2nd quarter. They scored a touchdown then. They got the ball back beginning of the 3rd quarter, scored a touchdown. They got the ball back after Montana scores a touchdown, and they score again. So the last 3 times they've had the ball, they've come away with points.
McNanny to kick it away, 27-10. The Eagles answer the Montana touchdown drive with a touchdown of their own. Short kick fielded at the 25. It's Wynn, and he's run out of bounds at the 34-yard line. Let's take a look at our bracket. FCS Championship, the road to Frisco, Texas. New Hampshire and Chattanooga, top of the bracket, advancing as people expected. And then Illinois State awaiting the winner here.
Yeah, this is one of those where, at least for our side of the bracket here today, we haven't seen very many upsets. No one is really upset. It's kind of gone as people expected it to.
If Montana comes back and wins this, they'll get a road date at Illinois State. If Eastern Washington hangs on, we'll see the Redbirds on the red turf here in Cheney, Washington.
That's the thing, you know, when you look at this Eastern Washington team, and specifically on this red turf, I mean, coming into the day, they've won 30 games and only lost 4 on the red turf, so they're good here.
Tough to beat, and they've won a lot of high-scoring shootouts. Johnson with a deep ball, far sideline, and he overshoots Trayvon Van. Coverage by Tevin McDonald, who could be an All-American at that free safety spot.
Oh, McDonald is really, really good. He was our impact player coming in. Got 3 interceptions on the season. All Big Sky first team as well. When you look at Eastern Washington on defense, one of the things that they said they had to do was to make them one-dimensional, and they've done that here today.
Here we see Tevin, whose dad was a 6-time Pro Bowl safety. Now defensive backs coach with the Jets. Johnson to the sideline. Haynes makes one man miss and then goes down at the 40-yard line. Tackle made by Dylan Zylstra, the defensive tackle.
You know, the problem for Montana right now is you're down 17. You didn't want to be in a situation where you had to throw it all the time, like they did the first time they played Eastern Washington earlier in the year. But unfortunately for them, they're in this situation, so it'll be interesting to see how they actually give Jordan Johnson time to be able to really air it out what they do.
3rd and 3, the football just across the 40-yard line. And now you're in a case where you got to hold serve. You've got to stay within striking distance. It's an important drive here.
Most certainly do, and they have not been good on 3rd down conversions here today for Montana.
Play clock winding down, 4 on the play clock. Johnson takes a snap. Steps up and throws it. It's on the money. It's a first down grab by Van. He breaks loose to the 40. Van in the open field down the sideline. To the 10, and he's finally run out of bounds.
You talk about having a quiet game right now. Trayvon Van, the backup running back that they are lined up at wide receiver because of his good hands and what he can do. Johnson's going to hit him across the middle, and then he just does what he does best, make guys miss moving up the field.
54-yard pickup.
Thought this was going for a touchdown.
Trying to get him right back in it here at the end of the 3rd quarter. It's 1st and goal at the 10-yard line for Montana. Johnson, plenty of time, over the middle, tipped and incomplete, almost intercepted, intended for Jamal Jones.
Yeah, that's dangerous territory right there. We saw what happened last time. Johnson's tip ball as it was interception, so they got away with one there. You see, he's trying to almost force this ball in. He's got time in the pocket. Man, Jamal Jones has got to catch that. He hit him in the chest with the ball. You can't ask for much more.
That's the second team all Big Sky receiver, not able to come up with that one. 2nd and goal from the 10. 2 receivers to the top of the screen. Handoff, Canada running right, and he gets short yardage. He was tripped up by Ronnie Hamlin. That was a great play. He got him by the shoe tops.
Yeah, Ronnie Hamlin's having a quite good game here. We mentioned earlier he was the one who blocked that punt.
That is the end of the 3rd quarter.
As we close our 3rd quarter out, Eastern Washington's heading into the 4th quarter up 17. But Montana's knocking on the door.
The All-American Hamlin with a nice tackle. We've had some scoring here in the 3rd quarter. A Canada touchdown run, but the Grizzlies need a lot more of that. Trying to battle back. 1 quarter to go. The high-flying Eagles in front, looking for a trip to the 1 quarter to go from Ruse Field in Cheney, Washington. 27-10 Eastern Washington. It was a 13-3 lead at halftime for the Eagles. Montana had a great game plan, but the Eastern offense has found some life, and now the Grizz facing a big 3rd and goal situation as we open up the 4th. From the 10. Coming on the blitz. Johnson, corner route. Van can't hang on. It was actually Jones couldn't hang on as the coverage was applied by McDonald, and it's 4th down. Now they're going to kick a field goal here. They won't go for it.
Now, this almost was pass interference on the offense for Jones here. Watch this push off there to try to go after the ball and make a play. But you know, the biggest key for Montana on offense coming into this game as we see another little push off here from Jones. So he got away with one there. It could have been a lot worse in terms of getting the penalty. But for Montana, their biggest key on offense was they had to score in the red zone. They needed touchdowns, not field goals. You can't trade field goals with an offense like Eastern Washington has. Now they do need a field goal because they're down 17. But you would want that at the end. Worry about that at the end. You need points when you need that. You need touchdowns.
Trying to make this a 2-score game. Sullivan's connected for 29 already. This will be a 27-yarder from the right hash, and the kick is good. So they had to have that, and they get within 14. Early stages, 4th quarter here. Sullivan's connected on a couple.
Now I'm going to jump back as we take another look at the bracket on our side here. Eastern Washington against Montana, winner to face Illinois State. New Hampshire and Chattanooga took care of business as expected today. And then on the other side, Sam Houston State with just an incredible game. Beat the number 3 seed Jacksonville State, and Coastal Carolina and North Dakota State move on as well.
This should be a good matchup there in Fargo, North Dakota. The winner here moves on to the NCAA quarterfinals. Montana has to be at least pleased that they're within striking distance, but they've got to find a way to slow down the Eagles' offense.
They most certainly do. They got to stop the bleeding on defense here. They had an incredible first half on defense, which shut them down, but they need to continue to try to figure out how to get back to there, because the last 3 drives that Eastern Washington has had, they put up points. But I want to jump back just into that 2nd quarter at the end. Now that missed extra point actually comes into factor now, because it is a 2-score game now. 2 touchdowns will tie this up, so that missed extra point in the 2nd quarter might come back to haunt Eastern Washington if Montana can get things together.
That was McNanny that missed it. It could have made it 14-3. It remained 13-3 at the time. We'll see if that is a factor here late. The kickoff into the hands of Shaq Hill. It's returnable from the 1-yard line. Hill across the 25 with great speed and tackled at the 27. Joshua Denard was over there, and he got some help as well from Connor Strom, a redshirt freshman.
Eastern Washington has been very successful on offense the last 3 drives, and the reasons they have been is because they've been able to stay balanced on offense. A heavy dose of run with Quincy Forte, to airing it out to Cup and to Bourne and Shaq Hill. We saw Corey Mitchell with his touchdown early on, so they've been real balanced on offense, which has really created problems in the 2nd half of Montana on defense.
And the Eagles are averaging 7.6 yards per play. They only had 3.6 average in the first half. Starting this series from the 27, Adams off the play fake, throws it quickly, and the catch made for a 1st down by Corey Mitchell. Mitchell already has a touchdown grab, and that one goes for 13 yards.
Now Mitchell, of course, the brother of Bo Levi Mitchell. But Montana continues to play off on the corners instead of playing press coverage, which allows those shorter routes, those intermediate comeback routes, to be open.
Vernon Adams has reached many milestones in his career, and he's just surpassed another one, over 10,000 passing yards. They'll run it on 1st down with Wilson, who's hit and wrapped up. Great pursuit to the football that time. Trevor Rame, the defensive tackle, in the middle of things.
Just so impressive. Talk about 10,000 career passing yards for Vernon Adams. Keep in mind, he's a junior. I mean,
it's hard to understand.
It's hard to comprehend that he has been so productive as a quarterback for this team.
First team All-American last year. The year before, he finished 6th in the voting for that Jerry Rice Award, top FCS freshman. He's been amongst the leaders in passing efficiency every year. 2nd and 11. Hill in motion. And Adams upset. They're going to have to call a timeout.
Have to burn one there. Looked like a bit of a miscommunication there.
This will be a full timeout.
And they only have one timeout left. That could play a factor late in this one. Ty Gregorak and his defense, they need to stop, trailing by 14. Welcome back to the NCAA FCS Championship second round game presented by Northwestern Mutual. Two-score game here. Winner advances to the NCAA quarterfinals. Matchup of Big Sky rivals. Second meeting this year. Eastern Washington with Peyton Award candidate Vernon Adams has been very good offensively in the second half. They protected their star quarterback. Second and long, swings it out to Shaq Hill on the edge, and Hill takes it up to the 48-yard line. It'll be a 3rd and 3 from there for the Eagles.
You got to credit Baldwin in this offense for making that adjustment. You saw the number there, 5 sacks in the first half for Montana, 0 in the second half. What they've been doing is they've changed up what they're doing with that offensive line. They're keeping more guys in. They're bringing that tight end in to create another barrier for those defensive ends on Montana.
Jabari Wilson checks off the field. Now they'll go with an empty set and 5 receivers on a 3rd and 3. 50% on 3rd downs today. Montana desperately needing a stop here. Adams over the middle. It's incomplete. It hit the face mask of the intended receiver.
And
that was cut.
Tough call here for Baldwin. Take a look at this. It's the arms in the air that created the problem there. Cup did not think that the ball was going to get there. You got to credit number 54 on that one.
Trevor Rain.
Trevor Rain coming in and getting those hands up. Because when you get those hands up, takes away that viewing lane for Cup. Hit him in the face.
So the Grizzlies do their job. Still 12:46 to go. They'll force the punt from Jake Miller. Got 10 up on the line of scrimmage. They're rushing a couple, and they almost got to him. Hangs it up there. And Wynn will stay away from that one. And that's going to take a favorable roll for the Eagles all the way inside the 3-yard line.
And that's one that Wynn probably should have caught there. He waved for the fair catch, but then decided not to take the chance.
Special teams have been good for the Eagles. A block punt, they get a 49-yard punt there. They lead by 14, 12:32 to go. 27-13, Eastern Washington leading Montana. A matchup of FCS powers here as the Eagles, the Big Sky champs, try to move on to the NCAA quarterfinals. And an update on some scores. Liberty and Villanova all even now in the fourth.
That's a battle in the fourth quarter. It's a good one.
The Bison move on with a hard-fought victory at home over South Dakota State. Starting from the 3-yard line after the 49-yard punt, Montana. Johnson from his own end zone. Far sideline, Haynes with a catch, and he's close to a first down. He stays in bounds just across the 12-yard line.
Excellent throw by Jordan Johnson there to get it to the edge to his wide receiver Haynes. Haynes having a pretty productive day. He's caught a number of balls.
Yeah, you know, he only had 10 catches coming into this game, but has 6 catches for 47 yards in this one. Second down and a yard. 12 minutes to go in this one. Pressure coming. Johnson over the middle. Incomplete, intended for Saylor, who took a big pop from Rashad Wadu, and he's shaken up.
Yeah, he's still down. He took a nice hit. Wadu coming across the field there. You have to wonder, they're trying to make the game so much safer now with targeting, with this new targeting rules that they have, and hitting a defenseless receiver. I mean, I don't know how much more defenseless you can be after that. I don't know, but
Wadu, the former Arizona State Sun Devil, he played 10 games last year at ASU, tore a labrum the year before and had a knee injury. He's had a lot of injuries, so he can attest to dealing with injury. And right now, the tight end, Saylor, trying to shake it off.
Yeah, Saylor's a big boy. We mentioned him at the top being our impact player, converted wide receiver. 33 catches on the year coming into today. 5 touchdowns as well. So they're going to want to have him back out there because he's a difference maker for sure. But that leaves us to a 3rd and short now. Got to think that everything is 4-down territory, I would assume.
3rd and a long yard. They've got it just shy of the 12-yard line. Empty backfield. That's Jones in motion. And a quick snap to Jones for the first down. How about that play? Now the ball's loose and Montana has coughed it up. They say they've coughed it up, and Eastern Washington has the football. That's Matthew Sommer, and they're going to give it to the Eagles here.
This is very, very interesting right now. What happens here, we're going to get another look at this in terms of the replay. Show this in real time here. After taking the snap, is he down or is he on bodies is the question. Is he down or is he on bodies? Trayvon Van, we talked about the excellent day that he's had. No whistle there. Did not hear a whistle to stop play.
Forward progress stop, but it is the whistle is the definitive on that, right?
That's what the rules say. I don't know. That's very, very interesting.
Oh, what a huge play.
Oh, man, you talk about the turn of events here.
Sommer, who played on a black field in high school, playing on a red field here, a sophomore from Salem, Oregon, and it looks like it's going to stand. Another big-time play from the Eagles.
We've seen a few turnovers from Montana. They will hurt you.
They get a score here. It might be all she wrote. They hand it off to Forte in a short gain, couple yards, as he's gobbled up by Jeremiah Kosick.
Yeah, you know, you talk about the missed opportunities in this game. Montana has had a number of opportunities that they just missed, and then they've also had some things that just unfortunately haven't gone their way. We talked about the tip pass, of course, in that case, and the fumble that we just saw. So they've had some things that just haven't gone their way, but they've been in position a number of different times to capitalize, but just for whatever reason couldn't do it.
That's uncharacteristic for Montana as well. 11 turnovers all season, 4 of them here against Eastern Washington on the red turf in Cheney. Second down and goal. Handoff, Forte straight ahead, and he gets it to the 5-yard line. Herbert Gamboa finally stops him, and it's a third down. Even a field goal would be big here.
Sure, yeah, it even hurts because it makes it a 3-possession game. Just a little under 11 minutes left in the game. So this is huge right now, one way or the other for Montana. They really need to stop them for no points. I know you would say in theory getting a field goal is good, but a field goal really puts this game out of reach.
Look at the red zone scoring. That's perfect this season. If you take away the 2 kneel downs, they have continued to be perfect in the red zone.
That's what happens when you have the Big Sky Offensive Player of the Year as your quarterback.
Third and goal from the 5. Play clock down to 1. They just get the snap off. Adams scrambling, and they stop him at the 7-yard line. And that was Kendrick Van Akkeren, the junior linebacker, forcing fourth down.
This is the big fourth down here. They're going to try to kick this field goal. But we talk about special teams and the impact that special teams has had on this game for Montana. They had their punt block, which changed everything in that first quarter as Hamlin came through the middle, made that block there. So now for Montana special teams, they're looking for their own block, in this case, to try to keep it a 2-score game.
McNanny is 8 for 8 on field goals this year, but remember, he missed that extra point back in the second quarter. This is a 24-yarder. Snap good, and the kick is good. A big 3 points put on the board for the Eagles. They lead 30-13.
All because of that turnover. Key play here is this fumble by Trayvon Van. Now the question is his forward momentum is stopped in this case. It's stopped, but he's not actually on the ground, and then there's no whistle. So since there's no whistle, the ball is still live. They call this a fumble because he's not on the ground. Very, very interesting call there. But Eastern Washington able to turn that into 3 points.
And if you're a player, I guess that's something you need to be aware of. Until that whistle blows,
it's hard. It's hard to tell a guy, you know what,
listen for the whistle
as well.
Hold on to the ball till the whistle blows.
It's a little difficult, but that's really one of those unconventional plays that you just don't see it happen.
Well, yeah, and that was a gadget play, trying to snap it to Van. Sometimes that can backfire, but it did work effectively up to the very end.
Down. Yeah, they got the first down. Just unfortunate consequence at the end there.
So a 17-point lead now with 9:24 to go. Montana still, if they can get a quick score, has a chance. But now, if they need 2 touchdowns and a field goal.
3-possession game.
Miller with a kick that will be returnable. It's John Wynn to the outside, across the 20, and he's run out of bounds at the 26-yard line.
So we thought that, you know, Montana was one-dimensional in the third quarter. They most certainly are. Let's get a quick look.
It's Micaiah Zamora, the guy that caused the fumble and then the recovery.
Big-time play there. But, man, you talk about some quirky plays that have happened, from the fumble with Jordan Canada early on in the first half that was ruled out of bounds after being ruled a fumble recovery. We've had tip pass, block punt.
Johnson's numbers, he threw it 52 times for 447 yards in their first matchup. Well under those numbers here, but has a chance to rack up some big numbers to try to draw him close here in the final 9 minutes. Here's an end around, double reverse, and Ryan Burke, the wide receiver, trying to run with it now, and he's tackled at the 21.
This is the second time we've seen them try to do something with Burke. You remember earlier on in the first half, they threw the backwards bubble pass to him, and he threw it as well. This time, they try to set up the reverse pass. Eastern Washington does a good job of covering up where it's just not open. So Burke has no choice but to tuck it and run.
Did not fool the Eagles. 2nd and long now. Johnson rolling to the right and throwing, and it's through the hands of Van, and incomplete. Now it's 3rd and long.
Van needs to catch that one. Now I understand that, you know, he might still be licking his wounds from the mistake that he made last series, but football is one of those things where you gotta have a short memory. You gotta let it go, move on to the next play. He should make that catch instead of putting his team in a bad situation in another 3rd and long.
They're only 3 of 11 on 3rd down, and the Eastern Washington defense playing one of their best games all year. That's probably not talked about enough. Just 13 points. It's a Montana team that averages 30 points per game. And now they can kind of pin their ears back, and they're showing blitz. They're only going to rush 3, though. They lay back. Johnson over the middle. Van the catch across the 30. 1st down and more. He's to the 40. And then he's tripped up at the 42-yard line. Tripped up by Todd Raines, so that could have been an even bigger play.
Way to redeem yourself here for Van. He's just going to catch this post route right across the middle. Move around. Now, it's just so impressive that this guy is a running back. He's the backup running back, and they're just lining him up at wide receiver and just letting him do his thing.
21-yard pickup, 8 catches, 131. Receiving for Van. Here's Johnson looking to run it, and he's out of bounds at the 46-yard line. Picks up 4 on that scramble.
Let me tell you, it's not easy to do. I can tell you from a running back perspective, you know, I caught a lot of passes at Notre Dame as well, but most of mine were out of the backfield, having the ball thrown to me out of the backfield. To line up at wide receiver and to be able to run routes is one of those things where some guys can do it and some guys just can't. And we're seeing a heavy dose of Van, but he has the ability to be that versatile.
So the Eastern Washington brain trust trying to figure things out defensively against Johnson. He's flushed from the pocket. He's looking to run again. He's across midfield and has a 1st down, out of bounds at the 46-yard line.
Johnson using his legs to extend the play actually turned it into a positive play as they get the 1st down. But they really need to be in hurry up here. They don't have a lot of time to dink and dunk and to try to get back in this game. They need to take some more shots.
And he ran out of bounds and the clock is running. 7:38, ticking down with his team down by 17. Pressure coming. Johnson over the middle and incomplete. Tried to needle it in there for Jamal Jones.
No, but you're right. He ran out of bounds. Not exactly sure why the clock was continuing to go. But Johnson here trying to hit Jamal Jones on that post route. Excellent job by Zach Bruce. Come over and knock that ball down.
Bruce, their nickel back, their 5th DB most of the time. Here's a handoff straight ahead. It's Jordan Canada, and he's close to the 1st down, a little bit short, knocked down at the 36-yard line. They've got to be in scramble mode here.
It's got to be 2-minute drill. It really has to be 2-minute drill every single time now.
And they're hurrying up to the line of scrimmage. 3rd and 1 facing the Grizzlies. Been a great season, 9-4, 2nd in the Big Sky this year. Big win in the 1st round over San Diego, 52-14. Could be Mick Delaney's final game as the Grizz head coach. Canada will pick up the 1st down as he leans forward to the 30. A lot of talk about who the next coach will be for Montana. Bobby Hauck's name has been mentioned, who was fired at UNLV. He had great success in Missoula. A lot of names cropping up, but they're not done fighting yet with 6:40 on the clock. Johnson. Van's got it at the 10, makes 2 men miss, and he's in for the touchdown. A much-needed score, and Trayvon Van delivers his 5th touchdown catch this year.
Talk about having an excellent day. Trayvon Van, the running back, move to wide receiver. He's just going to run a deep stop route, and both DBs fall down. Able to take it into the end zone. Moves Montana one step closer.
30-19 with the extra point coming up. 6:29 to go. As Van, well over the century mark receiving. And Sullivan tacks it on to make it 30-20. Johnson to Van, the senior from San Diego's had a huge night.
It has been a deadly combination, very fruitful for Montana. They're down 10 in the 4th.
20 rematch of these Big Sky schools, and what an effort from Trayvon Van. 9 catches, 161 yards, 133 of that in the second half.
Yeah, he has turned things on in this second half. When we talk about guys now, Trayvon Van, of course, is a backup running back that they have moved out to wide receiver just because of his athleticism and his ability, and we see why. Having a monster day.
Explosive runner and receiver out of Helix High School, originally signed with Florida, and has had quite a career. A hybrid guy that they're going to miss next year. There's the kickoff over the head of the kick returner, and it'll be a touchback as Mario Brown watched that one go.
Bit of an interesting call there. Nick Delaney in Montana decided to kick that off. I mean, I was assuming, and we talked about this a little bit on the break, that maybe you try your onside kick there, see if you can get the ball back, because it is still a 2-possession game.
Yeah, they do have the 3 timeouts left, so maybe they're thinking, but the problem has been they haven't been able to slow down this Eagles offense.
Especially in the second half. You know, it has been a tale of 2 halves for Montana on defense. They were getting to the quarterback in the first half, and now that rush is almost non-existent, at least the last few series for Vernon Adams.
Yeah, this is a team that had 40 sacks coming in, 10th in the FCS in that category. They're generally a team that rushes 4. They don't bring a lot of blitzing linebackers and safeties and corners. Maybe they dial that up a little bit.
That might be a good change up for them, because they have typically been able to get there with their front 4, especially when you have the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Year, Zach Wegeman, in at defensive end. But they need to dial up some stuff to get that pressure again on Vernon Adams to slow this offense down some.
From the 30-yard line, they'll run it with Jabari Wilson and a couple yards up to the 32, and that's it. That was Jeremy Kosei again, who's played a great game at that Mike linebacker spot.
He's coming over and playing extremely well as you get a look at that long hair there. But for Montana on defense, this has got to be a 3-and-out. Got to be a 3-and-out, because Eastern Washington's going to try to milk as much of this clock as they can. Now, you mentioned it. Montana has 3 timeouts, so that is a silver lining for them in allowing the clock to run some, is that they have all their timeouts when they get the ball back.
Looks like they want to save them for offense. We'll see how this series works. 2nd down and 8. Adams in the slot, catches made by Cup, and they rally to the ball and drop him short of the first down. Kosei over there, so a 3rd down and 5 coming up.
Another big 3rd down play here, specifically on this drive. Montana trying to get this football back to give themselves a chance to turn it into a 1-possession game.
And they're gambling without calling timeout here, Darius.
Sure.
They've got to get a stop here on 3rd down.
And they need to have a stop. A little under 5.5 minutes left in this 4th quarter. Still a 2-possession game. I look at 3rd down conversions here for Eastern Washington. Montana has played a really good game defensively all game. Really, the 3rd quarter was the difference.
Pressure coming. Adams trying to escape it. He runs away from the pressure, and he runs for a 1st down and more. Adams in the open field, and he slides down at the Grizzlies' 35-yard line. Maybe the Peyton Award winner stepping up when he needs it most. A 30-yard pickup.
Yeah, this is Vernon just making something out of nothing here. They bring pressure this time. Montana brings pressure this time, but unable to get him down because he's so elusive. And then he just takes it the distance for a nice gain. Actually got up a little gimpy after this play as well. It's the last thing you want if you're Eastern Washington, to Have your quarterback dinged up going into next week.
28 yards rushing, and that was the biggest play of the game there because it keeps the clock moving. And now you wonder if they play a little bit closer to the vest here. They'll run it left side with Forte, and he picks up a couple yards to the 33-yard line.
This just goes back to what we talked about a few minutes ago about the onside kick. I was still a little surprised that they didn't do the onside kick, because you give the ball back to Vernon Adams Jr. and you see what he was able to do today. Already 183 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, plus that big run that he just had there. But, you know, Eastern Washington has been so good on offense, I find it hard to believe that you should give them the ball back.
Well, what does this mean? Well, the winner here will face Illinois State in the NCAA quarterfinals next weekend. Now, if Eastern Washington wins, they'll be hosting the Redbirds out of the Missouri Valley. If Montana finds a way to pull this out, they'll have to go back to the Midwest. But it's held serve so far in terms of our side of the bracket.
It most certainly is. Talk about some good games around the country. This has been a good weekend for the FCS playoff games.
Saw Adams' numbers earlier. Meager numbers for him. This is a guy that had 475 yards passing against Washington. Threw for 410 against Montana in his first game back. But he's made the big plays when they need him most. 2nd and 8. 2 timeouts left now for Montana. Handoff straight ahead. They run it between the tackles. Nothing fancy here. The clock their allies. They go to Forte for a couple.
They're just going to continue to let it tick down. See if Montana use some of their timeouts maybe now.
They do.
They do.
1 left. And again, it makes this 3rd down very, very important.
Very important and very big. It really does.
We understand there's a minute left in Philadelphia. Villanova trying to hang on.
Oh, man, 7-point game right now. Minute left in the 4th quarter. Liberty is putting up a fight.
And the winner of that matchup will get Sam Houston State in the next round. The Bearcats, a traditional power at the FCS level. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that Coastal Carolina-North Dakota State matchup plays out. That should be fun.
That's going to be a good one, especially with how North Dakota State had to struggle against South Dakota State today. You wonder if Coastal Carolina is going to be able to use some of what happened in today's game against North Dakota State.
4:18 to go here. 3rd and 5 facing the Eagles here at the Inferno. Bo Baldwin has had so much success. 2010 FCS champs. Semifinals 3 of the last 4 years. They get the conversion here. They could ice it away maybe. Hill in motion. Adams running option. Pitches to Hill. Hill trying to get to the edge. He does for the 1st down. And he's inside the 20-yard line.
Talk about a dagger for Montana on defense. This is another excellent play call. Vernon Adams is their best player, so they just give him the ability to make the right decision when it comes to 3rd down and short. He pitches this out. You see Shaq Hill able to get the 1st down, but this just goes back to what we talked about. I mean, that onside kick is huge to me, because the second half, Eastern Washington has been so good on offense that Montana on defense shouldn't have had a whole lot of confidence in their defense to try to stop them. Instead, try to get the ball, go for the win.
And we're under 4 minutes to go, and again, just 1 timeout for Montana, and they cannot afford to give up a touchdown here, or it's definitely over. Leaping a couple would-be tacklers is Forte with a nice carry inside the 15-yard line. Great game from number 22.
Oh, man, he's had a stellar day today. They're so excited to have him back. Hasn't been 100% all year, and they're feeling like he's just now getting to where he's 100%. It's been a couple of different injuries that have kept him off the field full time.
21 carries, 130 yards. That's 9 career 100-yard rushing games for the senior.
Talk about a guy doing really well. You know, you combine what he's done today with Jabari Wilson. That's a good 1-2 punch there for the Eagles.
A couple California kids leading the charge for Eastern Washington. 2nd and 4. Forte to the right side. And he shut down. Tyrone Holmes, the junior end, was there, and it's 3rd down again.
You know, for Eastern Washington coming into this game, You know, we mentioned it at the top. The hardest thing to do in football is to beat a team twice because each team understands the tendencies. They know what you're trying to do, how you're trying to beat them. So that's why in the first half, I think the game was a lot closer was because of that. But Eastern Washington able to go in at halftime, make those adjustments, and protect their star quarterback.
And talk about how tough it is to continually stay on top as Big Sky champs like Bo Baldwin's program has done. I mean, it's not easy. You're always the team people are trying to knock off.
Exactly. You got the target on your back 24/7. And they have just been able to be consistent every year. You know, when we talked with Coach at the top, he said that this team is probably more impressive than that championship run team because they just have been so consistent since then. You know, they won that championship in 2010, but in order to win a championship, a lot of stuff has to go right. Well, a lot of stuff has been going right for them over the last 4 to 5 years because they win the conference every year.
3 titles in a row and hoping to make a run at another FCS title. And he has a lot of respect for this Grizzlies program. Both coaches have so much respect for each other, and Mick Delaney has been a staple of Montana football for so many years. What a job he's done with this program, 9-4. They had some down times, sure. And their next coach will be in a pretty good spot when he takes over. On 3rd down, they go end around, and it's not going to get it done to Cooper Kupp. It's 4th down now. Yeah, Holmes was there.
You talk about what Delaney has just been able to do. I mean, his 3rd season as the head coach there, but 7th overall with the Grizzlies. I mean, he coached the running backs before then. He's a bit of a running back whisperer. He said he's retiring after the season is over with, but he has done just a tremendous job. Montana's going to miss him for sure.
He's one of 5 finalists for the FCS Coach of the Year last year, and 30th season coaching football.
Started coaching in 1964.
A little bit before my time.
just a wee bit.
The Eagles are going to let it run down here near the 2-minute mark and let it run out. And a 4th and 4 coming up. Now, this is an interesting scenario. Do you attempt a field goal here and make it a 13-point game, or do you just try to pick up the 1st down and end this thing?
Yeah, that's a tough call. That actually is a tough call. I mean, I think for Eastern Washington, you have to be excited with what your defense has done in the second half. So if you're playing the safe zone, you probably just kick the field goal, take the points, and then play defense.
If you have confidence in your kicking game, if you don't want it blocked and take it back the other way.
Stranger things have happened, Don. Most certainly.
Yeah, it's why coaches get paid the big bucks and make these decisions. You know, if you're confident, and they have been pretty good 4th down, that you can pick it up, this game's over.
Well, you know, when you look at what Eastern Washington has done, specifically in the second half, they converted on their 3rd downs, they convert on their 4th downs because they believe that their offense can do it. And they got the best player in the conference at quarterback, number 3, Vernon Adams. That's why they're going for it right now.
Here we go. They're not going to kick the field goal. 4th and 4. Montana trying to cling on to hope here and get a stop and make them turn it over on downs. Adams for the end zone. It is intercepted by Jeremiah Kosei. So the Grizz still hanging on. They'll bring the touchback out to the 20.
Interesting there. Interesting. Now Adams just going to step back and try to loft this up, put too much air underneath the ball. On the come back under and to make the interception. What a heads-up play there by the linebacker, Kosei.
It's intended for Kupp, and that's the first turnover for the Eagles here. 1:57 on the clock. Ideally, in that scenario, you want to throw the pick inside the 10-yard line. You back them up.
Back them up where they're backed up against their own end zone. But that's another thing, you know, you talk about playing the safe zone. Do you kick the field goal or do you go for it? I tell you, you're always right when it works out and you're always wrong when it doesn't.
And that is the first time this season they've failed in the red zone. The first time all year to kneel down a couple times. Here's Johnson rolling out. His team down 10. Over the middle. It's intercepted. That'll put the finishing touches on it. Todd Raines for the Eagles. Inside the 20. Raines wants to take it all the way to the touchdown. He does.
Talk about a dagger in the heart.
Todd Raines, a junior from Kenmore, Washington.
We talked about the problems that Johnson has had a couple of times trying to throw across his body. His first pick was tipped. This time, Comes right across the middle, and Ty Raines just takes it the distance here. Excellent run after catch. That's what gets me excited.
Turned into a running back, which is something you like to see.
I love it. Absolutely love it.
He was big in the FCS semifinals last year with 11 tackles. They lost that game to Towson, but he's had some playoff experience, and he has put the exclamation point on this one with 1:40 to go.
That's how you want to end if you're Eastern Washington.
And points off turnovers, a huge story in this game. 2 picks for Raines. They've scored 17 points. The block punt, and they get the pick 6 right there.
Not to mention a couple turnovers, you know, besides the interceptions, also the fumble. Things have definitely gone Eastern Washington's way today.
And McNanny makes it a 17-point game, so now a 3-score game with 1:40 to go. Johnson picked off. Raines, the hero.
He's been picked off twice by Raines, all on the same type of play, trying to throw the ball across his body back across the field. The first one was tipped, and this time he just throws it right to Ty Raines, and Ty Raines just takes it the distance. Looking like a running back out there to the house. But I tell you, man, Eastern Washington, you have to give them credit for changing up the game plan and doing things different in the second half. Not as much emphasis on that as I think it should be, because when you go in at halftime and you throw out the stuff that works and you want to try to put in some new stuff, I mean, it's hard to do. They were able to do that today.
Well, and this is a team, remember, they have just 2 losses this year. It's a disappointment for Coach Delaney, but Eastern Washington, 2 losses, one of them at Washington, 59-52, a game they almost pulled out.
Sure.
And then a 1-point loss at Northern Arizona. They didn't have Vernon Adams in that game.
Yeah, and you know, so when you look at their numbers, I mean, they've combined in their 2 losses 8 points down. I mean, that's pretty impressive on the season.
37-20, 1:40 to go. Illinois State awaiting the winner here, and right now, unless Montana can pull off a miracle, it appears to be Eastern Washington. Trayvon Van on the return across the 20, trying to break free. Van to the 40, and he's tackled near midfield, or he's gone. And that was probably a touchdown-saving tackle made by Eastern Washington's Connor Bauman.
I mean, Trayvon Van is just having an electric day today. This time making an impact on special teams, almost taking this the distance. You know, they even told us at the top that he could potentially play some cornerback. So this guy is just incredible.
And Bauman right there probably saved a touchdown.
He certainly did.
He's been a 2-way guy. He's played some end and some on defense and tight end on offense. No timeouts left for the Grizzlies. Johnson pressured, sacked. First it was Marcus Saugen, and then he's finished off by Andre Lino.
Just another impressive win today by Eastern Washington. And you have to really think about now, like, what's next for Eastern Washington, and specifically with Coach Baldwin. I mean, we're hearing these rumors now where, you know, there are a couple of coaching vacancies that he's up for. The Oregon State job, the Colorado State job.
He said he won't go to another FCS program, but FBS he is not ruled out. And there's a sack. That's going to be Saugen. You have to feel good for 93. He made a couple bad plays early in the game. He comes up with a big play there.
Yeah, you love to see the freshman come in and play well. You mentioned a few mistakes that he's had in this game. It's exciting to see him get in and to get a sack, make a play towards the end of the game here to build up his confidence a little bit.
Well, Coach Baldwin recruits in this area. He's drawn a lot of interest now from Oregon State. We'll see how it plays out, but they hope he doesn't go. It's been an amazing run here in Cheney.
Well, you know, you can really understand as to why his name is mentioned with, you know, the Oregon State opportunity that has opened and the Colorado State opportunity that has opened up. You know, he's 42. He's a young coach. He's been very successful here in his 7 years here. He's 66-24 coming into today. You know, and he beat, speaking of Oregon State, he beat them last year at the beginning of the year. They beat Oregon State to open things up in the season. And you talk about 4 Big Sky titles in 5 years. I mean, that's the resume that you want with any program.
Johnson incomplete. They've compared him to Mike Riley in some ways, how he runs his program and his recruiting ties in this area. Jim McElwain, who left for Florida, was a quarterback here at Eastern Washington. So therefore, and a coach, that would be the tie-in to maybe the opening at Colorado State. But we'll see. for Beau Baldwin. And it is now final. Villanova advances. They got quite a battle from Liberty.
They most certainly did. Liberty gave them all they could. They eked this one out 29-22. So now you look at that quarterfinals. You know, Sam Houston State pulling this momentum by the upset over Jacksonville State. That's going to be a good game down in Villanova.
They got to go to Philly, though.
They got to go to Philly.
From Texas to Philly.
That's a little bit of a hike and a climate change for sure.
Now, Coastal Carolina will go to Fargo, but that's in a dome, so that weather-wise won't be a factor.
Won't be an issue there.
Some really intriguing matchups, though, but the upset from the Bearcats to put them into the quarterfinals as Beau Baldwin looks on at an injured Eagle. And that is Andre Lino, the redshirt freshman end. He's played really well. He's been active tonight.
He has. He's been real active. Like he's got a lower, got hit in the lower body region. But he's had a really good day. You know, you talk about your freshman and having the opportunity to play, but also having an impact. I mean, it's morals for your program. It really is.
His depth is unbelievable.
It really is.
They got 12 guys they rotate up front.
I mean, you look at this roster and how he's been able to turn over guys. It's very impressive.
It's going to be an Eastern Washington victory. Congratulations to the Eagles and Beau Baldwin. They move to 11-2, the Big Sky champions. They knock off Montana for the second time this season, advance to the quarterfinals.
You know, for Eastern Washington today, it was really about the adjustments that they made at halftime and then taking advantage of the mistakes that Montana made. We talked about the blocked punt, the interceptions, the fumbles. You look at advancing to the quarterfinal 4 out of the last 5 years. I mean, Eastern Washington just continues to impress week in and week out. They're consistent.
So Eastern Washington will advance where they will host Illinois State out of the Missouri Valley. On one side of the bracket, New Hampshire and Chattanooga on the other side. Sets up for a very interesting next weekend. This is a tough team to beat on this field.
It most certainly is. They are now 31-4 on the red turf. They continue to impress.
And congratulations to Montana and Mick Delaney. What a class act and a great job with that Grizz football program. But Beau Baldwin and the Eagles move on. So long from Roos Field and Cheney. 37-20 Eastern Washington. To watch this entire game on replay as well as other games in our family of ESPN networks, log on to watchespn.com or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.